Okay, welcome to a new set. This is Marvel Superheroes limited set review. I'm going to use the set and do the card evaluation as usual. So to start, we're going to talk about the new set mechanics, or at least the ones that appear prominently on many cards. The first is a brand new one called Power Up. These are activated abilities that have a reduced cost if they're activated on the same turn the creature entered, and they can only be used once. So this brings some draws to the mechanic Exhaust from Ether Drift, where you can only use them once. But as you can see in this card, you can cast 2 in a red for Human Torch Johnny Storm, and you can power him up for 6 in a red, which puts 3+1/+1 counters on the creature. This would be reduced to 4 colorless if you try to use the ability on the same turn that you cast Human Torch. Next is Teamwork. Teamwork is very reminiscent of Crew, or similar to Crew, I suppose. It's an additional cost to cast a spell where you tap creatures with total power greater than or equal to the number. Murdoch's Crusade, Teamwork 4. You choose one, but if you tap creatures with power 4 or greater in total, you get to choose both instead. Next, we have Plan. This is a new enchantment subtype, which kind of, there's some way where you gain plan counters, and then for each plan, once it reaches a certain number, it sacrifices itself and a final ability triggers. So for this one, Political Triumph, whenever a creature you control enters, scry 1 and put a plan counter. When the 4th plan counter is put on this enchantment, you sacrifice it, draw a card, and put a +1/+1 counter on each creature you control. And then a returning mechanic is Connive. Connive means you choose a creature, then draw a card and discard a card. If you discard a non-land card, then the creature that was chosen gets a +1/+1 counter. Okay, then for the limited archetypes, we're back to a full 10, unlike Secrets of Strixhaven, which only use the enemy colors. So we've got the Orzhov Teamwork, we've got Dimir, draw a second card. They have a lot of abilities that trigger when you draw your second card on a turn. And then Rakdos, Black-Red, we have Villains as a creature type. Red-Green, Gruul is Power Up. Many of the creatures have that new Power Up ability. Selesnya, Green-White, Heroes Matter. So it's going to be very, similar to the Villains, but instead with the Heroes creature type. For the enemy color pairs, White-Black is an attack alone theme. Blue-Red is a familiar artifacts. Black-Green, you've got Golgari, 2 or more creatures in your graveyard. So a lot of creatures or spells gain additional abilities if you have at least 2 creatures in your graveyard. Red-White is kind of a non-creature spell theme, and then finally, Simic Green-Blue is a familiar +1/+1 counters. This is the grading scale I'm going to be using. This is the same one, same slide as always. A's are the best of the best. Format all-stars. Big swings in-game and applicable in a wide variety of game states. Comeback cards and or the dagger when you're ahead. I don't believe I rated a single common or uncommon to be an A in this set. So these are nearly all, they are all rares and mythics for this evaluation at least. These, they pull you into a color or colors. They noticeably increase your win rate when they're in your hand or when they're played. They're typically including excellent uncommons and common creatures and removal, and many of the rares, kind of a lower tier of rares and mythics, are also Bs. Cs are your average limited cards, decently statted creatures that have a small synergy or some positive upside. These days, just like a 3-mana 3/3, 4-mana 4/4, that's not good enough. So a little bit extra kicker would put it in like a solid C. Then Ds are going to be weaker than typical cards you want to put into your deck. Possibly they're understated or too narrow. They might just require too much setup. Finally, Fs, they are far below the curve of playability, or too difficult to achieve in draft or sealed. They're basically just meant to be played in constructed. When you see them, when you see me rating a card in F, you should just avoid it no matter what the situation is. Finally, I don't know if I actually rated any cards as being sideboard cards in this set, but those would be ones that have fairly narrow applications, but they can be strong, put into your deck on games 2 and 3 of a match after you've seen what your opponent is playing. Finally, the additional designations, Build Around and Synergy. They're fairly obvious from the name, but the way that I differentiate them is that Build Around cards would be cards that you wouldn't play unless you were playing the correct synergy, whereas synergy cards would be ones where they're already strong enough to put into your deck if you're just playing the color, but with the right synergies, they become even better. So you'll see me talk about the difference between Build Around and Synergy as we get through the cards. Okay, so the 2-minute rundown includes the best and the worst cards of each color, basically ones where as soon as you see them, you should know, oh, this is a great card, or okay, I should avoid this no matter what. I should not try to play this. Let's start with white. For white, we've got Captain Marvel, Earth's Protector, Avengers Assemble, and then this red Guardian Super Soldier, I believe to be the best uncommon. Maybe. If it's not number 1, I think it's number 2. For blue, we have Leader Super Genius, Secret Invasion, and Justice Vance Astrovic as cards you should look for. Justice Vance Astrovic is a card that I think would possibly contend for number 1 best uncommon. Cards that you should avoid: Multiversal Incursion. This card just doesn't do anything really in limited. In black, we've got Dr. Doom, which I believe to be the best card in the whole set, Electra, Daughter of the Hand, MODOK, and Dark Deed, so some 4 cards here that are really good. Baron Helmet Zemo is the card to avoid, and basically the reason for that is he has 3 black pips. For red, God of Thunder, or Thor, God of Thunder, and Evil's Thrall. Evil's Thrall might be one you're surprised by if you stay to listen to the explanation there, and I would avoid playing the Scarlet Witch or Hex Magic. For green, unironically, the Unbeatable Squirrel Girl is insane, and Punishing Punch, which is very similar to a card from Avatar, the Last Airbender set, and I would avoid Super Strength, which I think is maybe a bit surprising, because this card is relatively basic and simple. You wouldn't think I would tell you to avoid it. For multicolored cards, I couldn't list all of the ones here, but the 4 that I believe to be the strongest are the Superhero Civil War, Cloak and Dagger Entwined, the Sensational She-Hulk, and Monica Rambeau. Actually, the Sensational She-Hulk is the backside of another card. I'll superimpose what the front is. And avoid playing Worlds Within Worlds, Thanos the Mad Titan, and Scientist Supreme of AIM. For the colorless cards, I didn't find any excellent colorless cards of which you should play them in every deck, but the 2 cards, the 10 Rings and the Arc Reactor, I would avoid. They're just pretty useless and limited. And with that, we will start with the card evaluation, commons and uncommons, starting with the multicolored card. Okay, so the first multicolored card, we're going to do them in order of the color pairs so that we get some kind of idea as to what each color pair is trying to do. First card is Captain America Living Legend, 1 white blue for a legendary creature, human soldier hero. It's a 3/4. Whenever a creature you control becomes tapped during your turn, if it's the first time that creature has become tapped this turn, untap it and it has Vigilance. Okay, so, another important note is every single creature that is an uncommon, rare, or mythic in this set is a legendary, and every single creature that's a common is non-legendary in this set. I won't talk about it too much, but that is something to be wary of if you end up drafting like at least 3 of a specific card. The restrictions that would be on your play if you actually have 3 of the same uncommon, for example. Okay. So this card, I rated this as a C+, 3 mana, 3/4 with Vigilance is already a good stat line, and the reason it's only a C+ and not higher is because I think that this ability is fairly narrow. Obviously it works with the teamwork ability, but I don't know if you're going to be able to have that many teamwork cards, and giving all your creatures Vigilance is a good thing. Pseudo-Vigilance, basically, if you just decide to tap to attack with them in order to trigger this ability. But it's not... it does enable some attacks, but it's not that good. I think this is between a C+ and maybe a B-. Okay, the next card is Spider-Woman Secret Agent. This is 3 and a Azorius for a 1/4 legendary creature, Spider-Human Spy Hero with Flying. When Spider-Woman enters, tap target creature an opponent controls. That creature can't become untapped for as long as you control Spider-Woman. So I rated this card to be a C, and that may be a bit surprising because there is a card from Final Fantasy that basically does the same thing. It's an enchantment aura, and it costs 3 mana, 2 and a blue. And, it has flash and does this whole thing about the tapping. The reason I think that this is not as good as just taking that card and adding in a flying 1/4 for 1 mana, which is really good, is because it is far easier to remove creatures than it is to remove enchantments. This card, it is really good. A 3 mana 1/4 flying is fairly decent. Sorry, a 4 mana 1/4 flying. When I say decent, like it's not like it's gonna be removed that easily. But it's also not really. There's just so many things that kill creatures. Okay, the next card. So each color pair only has 2 uncommons. In this set. So this is Ghost Spectral Saboteur. This is 2 and a Dimir for a legendary creature, human rogue villain, 2/2 with flash. Ghost can't be blocked. I think that this card is a D. There is a card in Lorwyn Eclipse that is 1 and a Dimir for a 2/2 with flash. That card is terrible. I'm not really sure what you're going to do in Dimir in this set with the 2/2 that can't be blocked. I don't think you really want to be declaring that many attacks, and sure, maybe Black-Red is aggressive enough in order to actually use this, but I have my questions like, okay, maybe in Orzhov you play this, but I think overwhelmingly this is going to be a mistake to be putting in your deck. Okay, and then the second Dimir card is Kang Temporal Tyrant, 2 blue-black for a 3/4 legendary human villain. Whenever Kang attacks, he connives. Whenever you draw your second card each turn, each opponent loses 1 life and you gain 1 life. So the ability to connive when you attack is really good. There was a creature in Modern Horizons 3, a common, called like Scrupulous Sentry or something, which was a 2/3 that when it entered or attacked, you connived. So obviously this is somewhat worse in the sense that you don't get it on the turn you play it, but it is so good if it survives. It is so good. So it's a very solid creature, and I believe that this 4 mana 3/4 with these abilities is better than a 4 mana 4/5. Bullseye Death Dealer. This is 2 and Rakdos for a 2/3 legendary human assassin villain. When Bullseye enters, you may sacrifice an artifact or discard a non-land card. When you do, Bullseye deals 2 damage to any target. You can pay 3, tap, sacrifice an artifact or discard a non-land card. Bullseye deals 2 damage to any target. I rated this to be a synergy B-. I think this is my highest rated uncommon signpost. The reason, the way that I think about it is, this is a 3 mana 2/3 where... Okay, take it this way. This is a 2 mana 2/3 that turns any card in your hand, any non-land card, into shock. Shock is a good limited card, and a 2 mana 2/3 would be good. So a 3 mana 2/3 that draws and plays a shock is extremely good. Obviously, it's not drawing and playing a shock, but being the flexibility to turn any non-land card into a shock, I think, is enough flexibility. Obviously, it couldn't work. If this card allowed you to discard lands, it would be insane. It might be the best uncommon in the set. But this, and it's repeatable too. I think this is really good. I think it enables a villain deck. I think this allows, I mean, you can play this in Boros, you can play this in Rakdos, you can play this in any color that uses black or red. I think it's really good. You can play this in aggro or in control. So I'm rating this to be a B+. And then here's Madam Hydra, 2 black-red for a 2/3 legendary human villain. Whenever you cast a villain spell, create a 2/1 black villain creature token with menace. I put this as a C-. I think even if you get the first one, you know, you end up with a 2/3 and a 2/1 with menace. Okay, both of them are villains, which is good, but that would be on par with Kyoshi Warriors, and Kyoshi Warriors is a good card. You get 2 allies, a 3/3 and a 1/1, but for this card, you have to at least have it happen once. I think this card is, I mean, I think this goes without saying, this card is really, really bad to play on turn 4. And then even on turn 5, it's like, how many 1-drop villains are you going to have in your deck? Maybe you end up having this plus a villain, and then it works out fine. But in the, I think you're hoping to be able to trigger this thing once. Realistically speaking, I think even if you get this on turn 4, on turn 5, how many times can you really cast 2 villains? And then you get 2 2/1s, and then at that point I would say you're ahead on Madam Hydra. But if you only get 1, this is like okay, like C++, but in every instance in which you cast this on 4 and it gets removed, or you don't have a villain to play the next turn, this is atrocious. Then we move on to the Gruul cards. The first Gruul card is Abomination, Terrifying Titan, 3 and a Gruul for a 4/4 legendary Gamma villain with Trample. This is the first card we've seen with Power Up for 5 Gruul. Put a +1/+1 counter on Abomination. He fights up to 1 target creature an opponent controls. I put this as a B-, which maybe is surprising. First of all, a 4 mana 4/4 with Trample is fairly decent and limited. Like, that's a card I would probably play. That would be a C. But when you compare this card to Affectionate Indrak, I think is the card, to a 6 mana 4/4 when it enters you fight a creature, that card is really good in limited. And this would basically be a 7 mana 4/4, or sorry, 7 mana 5/5 that when it enters it fights another creature. The difference between having a 4/4 versus a 5/5 fight is significant because, you know, you can kill moderately sized threats, anything with 4 toughness instead, or sorry, 4 power and still survive. So I think that is really important. But overall, the flexibility is just really good. This is one of the few power-up cards where I think you would be happy to play it either at 4 or at 7. Or, of course, if you play it at 4 and then on turn 7 you get this, like that's awesome also. I think something you'll see with a lot of the power-up cards is one of the 2 like modes basically is quite bad. You don't really want to play it either as the creature, or maybe you don't want to play it like all in one turn as the power-upped version. Next is Hulk Gamma Goliath, 3 red-green for a 6/5 legendary Gamma Berserker hero. It has reach and trample. Power-up abilities of other creatures you control cost 3 less to activate. I gave it a B-. I think a 5 mana 6/5 reach and trample is decent. Obviously, you would put that in your deck. I'm not sure how many times you actually get to play this like power-up 3 less thing. But if you, I guess I should also say, yeah, you can play this as a 8 mana 11/10 with reach and trample, sure. Or, you know, you can power this up to be an 11/10 on turn 8. I mean, that's good too. I just don't think you get this cost reducing that much. I mean, if your opponent has removal, they're going to kill this, and if you are allowed to attack with this twice anyways, you're going to win. So that's all I'm saying, is that I don't think that cost reduction matters that much. The next Selesnya card is Spider-Man. Or sorry, the first Selesnya card is Spider-Man to the rescue. 2 and a Selesnya for a 3/2 legendary spider human hero with flash, vigilance, and reach. When Spider-Man enters, you may tap him. When you do, another target non-attacking creature you control gains indestructible until end of turn. I think this is a B-. It's one of the strongest signposts as well. In I think nearly all cases, you're going to be using this either to protect something that's like blocking, and maybe it allows you to trade, or you take a trade into you just destroying their creature, or dodging removal. I think you don't really want to play this as a 3-mana 3/2 vigilance reach or whatever and actually do the blocking yourself. That would be a kind of a waste of this card. It's really strong. And then the second card is Black Panther Vanguard. 2 green, white for a 4/4 legendary human warrior hero. Whenever another non-token hero you control enters, choose 1. Create a 1/1 white soldier creature token, and creatures you control get +1/+1 until end of turn. I think this is a C+. It's very solid. 4-mana 4/4, and if you're playing Selesnya, which you're forced to by playing this card, you are going to have enough heroes in which this triggers. If this even triggers one time, it's good, and it just gets the board or allows you to finish the game. It's really strong. This is a 4-mana 4/4 that definitely draws the opponent's removal. I think it's kind of interesting that they had to say non-token hero. It's not like this thing makes heroes anyways, and I don't think there's that many ways to create token heroes anyways. I think it probably could have done without the non-token. Okay, then the enemy colors. We'll start with Black Widow, double agent, 1 white black for a 3/2 legendary human hero villain with death touch. Whenever a creature you control attacks alone, it gains first strike and menace until end of turn. I think that this is a C-, and that's kind of reflecting my bearishness on Orzhov in general. I don't really understand this, like, whenever a creature you control attacks alone, because yes, you have many turns in which only one of your creature is declaring an attack anyways, but it just seems kind of like it's very wasteful. I feel like I think you don't really want to only attack with one creature at a time. It's like all your other creatures, they make your best creature worse if you end up declaring attacks with more creatures. Also, a 3-mana 3/2 with death touch is not very good. But it's just like, yes, if Black Widow is your only creature, or maybe you have a 2-drop and then Black Widow, yeah, great, you attack with a 3/2 death touch first strike menace. They're just going to take 3 damage. And I'm very confused how the Orzhov game plan is like going to really work. If it works, it's going to be because black is so good in the set. But in general, I think black is just better with the other colors. I think white-black is probably the worst out of the black color pairs. The second card is U.S. Agent John Walker, 3 and an Orzhov for a 3/2 legendary human soldier hero. When he enters, create a colorless equipment artifact token named Sturdy Shield with equipped creature gets +1/+2 and equip 2. Attach it to U.S. Agent. So effectively, he comes in as a 4-mana 4/4 and 2 rectangles, bodies, whatever you want to call them. I think this is fine. I think it's a C+. I should probably say it's like a synergy or build around or something like that. Because the equipment is pretty bad. Giving something +1/+2 is kind of a waste of 2 mana. Even if it doesn't like cost you a card. Like, how many times are you actually gonna be able to do that in a game? I have a lot of doubts about that. Also, this doesn't really seem to fit in the attacking alone archetype, but okay, whatever. It's a 4-mana 4/4. It leaves behind something. I think leaving behind something is fine. But yeah, this is not that good. This is not that good. I kind of want to downgrade this to a C or C-. Okay, Speedball, new warrior, 2 and an Izzet for a 2/2 legendary human hero. Whenever a player casts a spell that targets Speedball, he gets +2/+2 until end of turn. You may choose new targets for that spell. So I put this as a synergy C. Some people have been saying that, oh, it's like it has hexproof or something, or it makes using removal very annoying, and that is true. I agree with that. I think the part that I struggle to understand really is number one, if you're playing a 3-mana 2/2, and your opponent doesn't have to remove it because a 2/2 is not very threatening. The second thing is, okay, you can cast spells on your other creatures that bump. Let's say you pump one of your other creatures, and then this guy also gets it. Like, that's cool, but how many? He does. Wait. Sorry, he doesn't even get it. It's like he just gets +2/+. It's like, how many combat tricks or like pump spells are you going to be putting into your deck? I think a lot of times this is like a 3-mana 2/2 with hexproof, and that's like, especially in blue-red in this thing. Like, you don't really want to be playing like pump spells or like auras or something, right? Okay, Iron Man, 2 blue-red for a 1/4 legendary human hero with flying and vigilance. Iron Man gets +1/+0 for each other artifact you control. Whenever Iron Man attacks, if an artifact entered the battlefield under your control this turn, draw a card. I think this is a synergy C+. I think if you're playing Izzet, you're going to have enough artifacts where this thing basically attacks, or is like a 4-mana 3/4 flying vigilance, let's say. And obviously if you trigger the ability one time, it's really, really good, which I think you'll be able to do. And at the end of the day, like, this is not really what people talk about when they say like threat of activation. That's usually with activated abilities, but there is like a threat of activation if you don't remove it. If your opponent casts Iron Man, Master of Machines, I think you are likely to remove it because the possibility of them drawing a card on turn 5 or 2 cards on turn 5 or something is so bad for your tempo that I think most of the time you're going to be casting something to remove their 4-drop. And if your 4-drop draws your opponent's like harder removal, that's fine. There's nothing wrong with that. That just means you get to play your 5 and 6 drops with more confidence later. Titania, Rugged Rumbler, 2 and a Golgari for a 5/5 legendary human villain. As an additional cost to cast the spell, discard a card or pay 2, or discard a card or pay 2. So I think that this is a C+. A 5-mana 5/5 is not the worst thing in the world. That would be, the base case. There are some instances in which you are actually happy discarding discarding a card. And then in that case, a 3-mana 5/5 where you discard a card and most likely either your opponent discards a card or they have to pay 2 additional mana. Like, that's really good. In the case you want to discard the card would be you are playing the 2 or more creatures in your graveyard, and that is not an arbitrary requirement to reach, just like Threshold in other sets. Like, it's not that easy to put 2 creatures into your graveyard. Unless you actually go about methods like this or milling them or whatever, because you cannot force trades or attacks or something that actually put your creatures from the battlefield graveyard. So this actually advances your game plan. So I think a lot of the times this is 3-mana 5/5, discard a card, but not as bad as discarding a card because it's actually helping you, and then your opponent has to pay, maybe 3 mana for a removal spell plus 2 more, or discarding a card, and that's a great outcome for you. Killmonger, Scourge of Wakanda, 2 black-green for a 3/3 legendary human mercenary villain. When Killmonger enters, you may sacrifice another creature. When you do, destroy target non-land permanent an opponent controls. As long as there are 2 or more creature cards in your graveyard, Killmonger gets +2/+1. So this card is clearly not as good as, let's say, Ravenous Chupacabra, despite the fact that it could become a 4-mana 5/4 instead of a 4-mana 2/2. But the fact that you have to sacrifice your own thing is a big deal. However, all of those cards where, in every limited format where it's like 1 black mana for a sorcery where you sacrifice a creature and then you get to destroy one of your opponent's creatures, that has worked out very well in the past. And not only can you destroy creatures, you can destroy like non-land permanents if that becomes pertinent. There are no planeswalkers in this set, so likely you'll be destroying creature, and sometimes you'll destroy some really strong enchantment or artifact that they have. But I think overall you're going to be really happy. Plus, over time, even if it doesn't occur with the triggered ability, his enter ability, a 4-mana 5/5, he'll eventually become a 4-mana 5/5, which is also really good. Or sorry, 4-mana 5/4. Synergy, B-, one of the best cards, uncommons, I mean. This is War Machine, Legacy of Iron. This is 2 and a Boros for a legendary human hero. It's a 1/3 with flying. At the beginning of combat on your turn, another target creature you control gets +X/+0 until end of turn, where X is War Machine's power. I put this as a D+. I think it's the worst gold card. A 3-mana 1/3 is really bad, and giving one of your creatures +1/+0 is okay. It's like okay, I guess. It doesn't enthuse me, and I think playing this card and then putting in auras and equipment, and basically playing pump spells as sorceries instead during your main phase, like, that is not good. You don't want to be putting equipment, auras, and playing pump spells as sorceries just to make this ability better. I don't understand. This card sucks. Okay, Thor Odinson. This is 3 red-white for a 4/4 legendary god warrior hero with flying, vigilance, prowess. They power crept Sarah Angel. So the question is, if you're playing Boros, is Sarah Angel good enough with 2 prowess triggers? I think the answer is yes. This is another creature. Okay, yes, 5 mana, 4/4 flying, vigilance, like, can be removed relatively cheaply. The worst case is you cast this on 5, your opponent plays that 2 mana black instant, which I'll put on the screen. That gives a creature -4/-4. I think that is the worst thing that can happen to you. But if they pay 3, 4 mana, whatever, to use some destroy creature or deal 6 to your creature or whatever, like that was going to happen no matter what 5-drop you played if it didn't have an enter ability. But this offensive threat is very strong. And again, this is not really what people talk about threat of activation, but I think that potential is there as well. Like with enough instants in your deck, like this can very, very easily be hitting for 8 on turn 6 with Vigilance too. I think it's right on the precipice. Like Sarah Angel's a C- card. It's just not strong enough these days. But I think the double prowess might put this over. C at the worst, in my opinion. Ant-Man Colony Commander, 1 green blue for a 2/2 legendary human rogue hero. Whenever Ant-Man attacks, you may pay 1. When you do, put a +1/+1 counter on target creature. Whenever you put a +1/+1 counter on a creature, create a 1/1 green insect token. This ability triggers only once each turn. So I think that this is a C. It's difficult to see how. Okay, of course on turn 4 you can attack with this thing, pay the 1, and then it'll be a 3/3. You'll get your 1/1. Yeah, like I don't know if you're. Yes, a lot of games you are going to be able to attack with a 3/3, and if you do that, your opponent is going to trade. You'll be left with a 1/1, and that is perfectly fine. I think that would be like a C outcome. And then I think if you have ways to put +1/+1 counters elsewhere, and then this kind of just like acts as an enchantment where it stays on your board, and then every time you put a +1/+1 counter on something, you get a 1/1. Like that is a fine static ability as well. That's attached to a 2/2. So I think it's a C, but I don't think this card snowballs. Certainly not. It's way too slow for that. The other card for Simic is Beast Erudite Aerialist, 3 and a Simic for a 3/3 legendary mutant scientist hero. As long as you've put 1 or more +1/+1 counters on Beast this turn, he has flying, and whenever Beast deals combat damage to a player, draw a card. Build around C. Turn 5, I hope you've built your deck so that you can put a +1/+1 counter on this and you can attack, because attacking is a 4/4 with flying on turn 5. Either you're going to get a favorable like block for you, maybe you get a trade, and that's fine too. If your 4-drop trades with their 4-drop that has flying, that's fine too. But of course, like they're going to go to great lengths to try to remove this out of fear of that second ability occurring. So that was the last multicolored uncommon or common. Now we'll start with the monocolored cards, starting with white. The first card being Agent Maria Hill, 1 white, or I should say white for a 2/1 legendary human spy hero. Whenever Agent Maria Hill becomes tapped to pay a teamwork cost, put a +1/+1 counter on her and draw a card. This card is kind of crazy if you have the teamwork. Like 1 mana for 2/1, that is reasonable, like a C level card, right? These days, one that you would probably put in your deck, especially since it has the hero creature type. But this is crazy. Like if you're playing a teamwork deck, especially like white blue or white green, I don't know. This is so strong. It has value in the mid game and late game, which is, and of course, 1 mana 2/1 has value in the early game. So I think this is really good for a 1-drop. In contrast, here is the Crowd of True Believers. This is white for a 1/2 human citizen. You tap and target creature you control that's attacking alone gets +1/+0 until end of turn. You gain 1 life. I think something that's like unsuspectingly bad about this card is you cannot use the ability unless you have a creature that is attacking alone. So you can't just tap this to gain 1 life if you don't have any attacks or like at the end step for your opponent or something. So I think that that actually arguably makes this card worse than I even thought. I put it as a C because a 1 mana 1/2 that has some minor ability is fine. If you don't have enough, but it sucks that it doesn't have the hero creature type, and I wish it just said up to 1 target creature, because that way you could use the ability even without having like an attacking creature that's attacking alone. The next card is Helicarrier Strike, white for an instant with Teamwork 2. Helicarrier Strike deals 2 damage to target attacking or blocking creature. If the spell was cast using Teamwork, it deals 4 damage to that creature instead. I put this as a C+. I know that these cards are fairly narrow, in the sense that, it could just be a brick in your hand for a long time. But 1 mana to deal 4, like that stabilizes the board a lot for you. I think usually you use this more defensively when your opponent is attacking, rather than you making an attack and then your opponent somehow blocking. You wanted to kill their thing. That's a bit broadcast where, let's say you swing with your 2/2 into their like 5 or into like their 4/4 or something. Like they're not going to make that block if you have mana up. Next, Panther Pounce, white for an instant. Target player investigates, target creature gets +1/+0 and gains flying until end of turn. Untap it. I put this as a C+, and something that's kind of maybe nuance or something, maybe it's obvious, is you might be wondering why it says target player investigates, whereas other cards just tell you investigate. And that is because if your creature gets removed, you have to have a creature to target in order to play this card. But even if your creature gets removed, you will still investigate, assuming you targeted yourself to investigate. because it checks the valid targets. If this card didn't say target player investigates and your creature got it removed before this spell resolved, you would not get the clue token. Anyways, I think this is built around C+. I think this is very good for the cards that say, if you target your own creature with a spell or ability or something like that. And it is fairly decent to get +1/+0 and flying for 1 mana, and you get a clue at the end of it. So it has some late game value too, which is great. Next, Political Triumph. Why are there so many 1-drop white cards? Political Triumph is white for an enchantment plan. Whenever a creature you control enters, scry 1 and put a plan counter on this enchantment. When the 4th plan counter is put on this enchantment, sacrifice it, draw a card, then put a +1/+1 counter on each creature you control. All of that sounds dandy, and yet I'm giving this a C-. The reason for that is because if you do not play this on turn 1, I think it is really bad. If you play this on turn, I think this is very polarizing. If you play this on turn 1, I think your win rate markedly shoots up. If you play this on turn 4, I think you basically wasted a card. Yeah. Okay, I think maybe on turn 3 it's okay if you had 2 drops in your hand, for example. You play a 2-drop on turn 2, turn 3 you play this and another 2-drop. Maybe it's still early enough, but I think later than that, like, it's just not that useful, or it's just too slow, I think. Yeah, scrying 1 is good though. Shield Spy Kit, white for a artifact equipment. Equipped creature gets +1/+1. Whenever a equipped creature attacks alone, untap it and scry 1, equip 1. I think this is like a build around D+. I don't understand the attacking alone. 1 mana, 1/1 for the ability to give your creature +1/+1. Sorry, 1 mana for +1/+1 and equip 1 is atrocious. I wish it just said, like, when the creature attacks, you scry 1 and untap it. Why does it have to attack alone? This card is horrible. Next card, Agent of Atlas, 1 and a white for a 2/2 creature, human spy hero with prowess. I think this is a D. You're just not playing that many, what's it called, like non-creature spells to trigger this that often. And the 2 mana 2/2 is just not that strong. Yes, like maybe with some work it trades with 3-drop. That would be a good outcome for you. But 2 mana 2/2 prowess, like this is worse than a 2 mana 2/3 with no ability, for sure. Grave Brawler, 2 mana, or 1 and a white for a 2/1 human warrior hero with lifelink with power up. 4 and a white, put 2 +1/+1 counters on this creature. So this is one of the ones where I was talking about where most of these power up cards, 1 out of the 2 options is a lot better. And in this case, a 2 mana 2/1 with lifelink is better than a 5 mana 4/3 with lifelink. So those are basically your 2 options, and then okay, you play this on turn 2 as a 2/1, somehow it survives, and then on turn 5, maybe you don't have anything great to do and you pay 5 and it becomes a 4/3 lifelink, you attack, you trade with their 4-drop, you gain 4 life, like that's cool. I'm putting this as a D. I don't think either of the methods is good enough, and 2 mana 2/1 lifelink just isn't a good enough, like, worst case scenario for me to rate this higher. Colleen Wing's Street Samurai is 1 and a white for a 2/2 legendary human samurai hero. Whenever you cast a spell that targets a creature you control, put a +1/+1 counter on Colleen Wing and scry 1. This I think is a build around C+. Like imagine this with like that pounce card or whatever. Like that's really strong. Putting in +1/+1 counter and then scrying 1. It's not that easy to cast a spell that targets something. But it's like there's some like snowball ability there. I can see a world in which this is, 2 mana becomes a 3/3 that scries on 4/4 that has scried you 1 twice or something. I think it takes work though. That's why it's a build around C+ and not a synergy C+. In the right deck, this card is pretty good, I think. This is another card we saw earlier, Murdoch's Crusade. 1 and a white for a sorcery with Teamwork 4. Choose 1. If this spell was cast using Teamwork, choose both instead. Exile target creature with toughness 4 or greater. Exile target enchantment with mana value 4 or greater. Of course, you're usually going to be using the first ability, but in the instances in which you get to use both, that's like awesome. I think that this is a C+. Maybe it's a little bit weaker. I'm adding the plus for the flexibility of needing to remove an enchantment if necessary. But 2 mana as a sorcery to remove a big thing, that's good. That is good. It's not quite Epic Downfall, but Murdoch's Crusade, very solid, I think. Next, Night Nurse, Healer of Heroes, 1 and a white for a 2/1 legendary human doctor hero with flash lifelink. When Night Nurse enters, choose target permanent card in your graveyard that was put there from anywhere this turn, return it to your hand. I think this is a B. This card is so strong. I think this is like maybe the third, like in the top 5 uncommons and commons, certainly. This is so often 2 mana, 2/1 lifelink flash, draw a card. This is the tempo is crazy. Patriot Shield Wielder, 1 and a white for a 2/2 legendary human hero. It has an activated ability, 2 and tap. Another target creature you control gets +2/+0 and gains hexproof until end of turn. I think this is a C+. In the right deck, you are able to basically keep 2 mana open, and that will effectively like force your opponent to remove this. I think in any case, like your opponent is going to spend a card in order to remove Patriot Shield Wielder, and for them to spend a card to remove your 2-drop, that's a good outcome for you. You play this on turn 2, and either on turn 2 or turn 3, they remove this in order to allow them to remove your other stuff in the future, and you're definitely ahead if you do that, because removal is much better than creatures in it anyways. Raft Security Officer. 1 and a white for a 1/3 human soldier. This has an activate ability. 2, tap target creature. This ability costs 1 less to activate if it targets a creature with power 3 or less. Solid C. Yeah, I think it enables attacks for you. I think it can also be defensive, preventing your opponent who has one big thing, and paying 1 to activate this ability in the late game. That's pretty good. I think despite a 1/3 for 2 not being a very good stat line, I think that ability is enough to push it into playability. Next is Super Villain Lockup. 1 and a white for an enchantment with flash. When this enchantment enters, exile target tapped creature an opponent controls until this enchantment leaves the battlefield. So, unlike a card like Journey to Nowhere or something, the creature has to be tapped, which is a little bit unfortunate. But I think it's still good enough, C+. When you compare this card, let's say to like a Johnny's Response, which costs 2 and destroyed a creature, but you could pay 5, to destroy a tapped creature, but you could pay 5 to destroy a creature. I think that this card is weaker than that one, but a Johnny's Response is really good. I think you're going to have enough instances, like if you're playing a control deck, I think that this card is certainly an addition. Like you definitely put the card in your deck if you're playing control. Aggro, I don't know. I think your deck would have to be very, very aggressive for me to consider cutting this card anyways. Next, Take Up the Shield. This is a reprint. 1 and a white for an instant. Put a +1/+1 counter on target creature. It gains lifelink and indestructible until end of turn. I think the lifelink is nice. I think the indestructible is more important, and I rate this card to be a C because it's been a C in the past. 2 and a white for Agent 13, Sharon Carter. 3/2 legendary human spy hero. Whenever a creature you control attacks alone, investigate. I put this as a C. Maybe I should have put it as a build around C. Compare this card to Thraben Inspector, 1 for a 1/2 that when it enters you investigate. I think that this card is a lot worse than Thraben Inspector. Thraben Inspector is one of the best commons anytime it gets printed into a set. For this card, if you get it once, I think that's like good, meaning you probably play this on your main phase 1 on turn 3. You attack with your 2-drop, and likely you're going to trade. That would be good for this to become a 3-mana 3/2 that investigates on entry. But it's like, it has late game value as well, which is the reason I think it's enough to be a C. It's iffy though. I mean, obviously I've already said this numerous times, but I just don't think that you are going to be able to attack alone that many times in a game. I don't even think you really want to. It would be a mistake to not attack with other stuff just so that you could get a clue. I think many game states that you're in. Next is Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. 2 and a white for a 2/4 human spy hero. Whenever a creature you control attacks alone, that creature gets +1/+1 until end of turn. Synergy, C. Yeah, I guess it's nice. It does enable more attacks. That's good. You combine this with Agent Sharon Carter or whatever, and yeah, like a lot of times you're going to be able to declare attacks. You get +1/+1, you get a clue. Like, that's cool. But it's like, I feel like for this Orzhov idea, you need so many of these like attack alone buffs for it to be worth it to actually play these understated creatures. Like a 3-mana 2/4 of itself is not something you want to do. But +1/+1 is fine. Heroes in Training. 2 and a white for a 2/2 human hero. When this creature enters, draw a card. If you control another hero, you gain 2 life. I think this is a synergy B-. It's maybe somewhat surprisingly, because something like what is that? There's like some like something helper or whatever, like a 2-mana 1/1 cat that draws you a card when it enters. Like, that card's decent, and this card 3-mana 2/2 when it enters you draw a card that's pretty decent. Perhaps I should have given it maybe like synergy C+, and then it can become like a B- if you have the hero deck or if you have like the life gain triggers. In any case, like, I just think it's a solid card. You're going to put it in your deck. Playing a 3-mana 2/2 that draws you a card is good enough. And then Kree Commandos, 2 and a white for a 2/1 Kree Soldier Villain, Flying Vigilance Prowess. Yeah, I think this card sucks. It's a C-. This is just worse than that like Iguana Parrot card. Like, I think it was a 2 and a blue for a 2/2 Flying Vigilance Prowess in the Avatar set. Like, why is white having worse creatures than blue? This card is literally just worse than the Iguana Parrot. It's a 2/1 instead of a 2/2. And Iguana Parrot is a bad card. Yeah, I don't know. This card seems bad. Wake Agent of S.H.I.E.L.D. 2 and a white for a 3/3 legendary Inhuman Spy Hero. Whenever you cast a non-creature spell, tap target creature or land. I don't think you play that many non-creature spells, and it's also just not that effective. Tapping someone's land is kind of useless, question mark, especially in limited. So I think this is a C-. It's basically a 3-mana 3/3, I think. Okay, now the one that I want to talk about. Red Guardian Super Soldier, 2 and a white for a 2/2 legendary human soldier villain with flash. When Red Guardian enters, destroy target creature an opponent controls that dealt damage this turn. I think that this is one of the best uncommons in the entire set. As I said, I think this is either 1A or 1B with that blue one that I'm going to talk about too. This usually it works similarly to saying when it enters, you destroy a creature, let's say that attacked or that is tapped or something like that. And remember what I said about Johnny's response for 2 mana being really good? Like, this is still an instant. Like, sorry, it's instant speed still. Like, I could understand this card being far worse if it didn't have flash. Like, it would be unplayably bad, I think, if it didn't have flash. But, like, this basically becomes a Johnny's response plus 1 mana for a 2/2. It is so good. So good. It's basically a 0 mana 2/2, I think, because you're like a Johnny's response, draw, and play a 2/2. Really, really strong. And you can also use it on your turn too, if you like want to attack with some small stuff or whatever to try to destroy your opponent's big creature. That also works. So that I think is also an underrated component to this, whereas a Johnny's response would not work in that case. Next, Web Up. 2 and a white for an enchantment. This is Banishing Light. Whenever this enchantment enters, exile target non-land permanent and opponent controls until this enchantment leaves the battlefield. Banishing Light and all the variants are C+, so I'll just say it's a C+. I think this was also in the Spider-Man set. Luke Cage, Power Man. 3 and a white for a 2/5 legendary human hero. Whenever Luke Cage attacks alone, he gets +2/+0 and gains indestructible until end of turn. Okay, I think this is a D+, and it's just like, what is the point? Like, you play this as a 4 mana 2/5. Like, it is nearly useless as a 4 mana blocker, and it's like, great, you declare an attack, you deal, I mean, almost certainly you're gonna deal 4 to your opponent, and then what? Like, I don't know, like, what is the point? What is the point? Like, this requires other stuff. Like, you play Agent Sharon Carter on 3, you play this, then turn 5, you attack, you get this as a 4/5 indestructible, and you get a clue. Great, that's a good thing. But it's like, on its own, it's just bad. Mockingbird, Ace Agent, 3 and a white for a 2/2 legendary human spy hero with double strike. Whenever you cast a spell that targets a creature you control, put a +1/+1 counter on Mockingbird. I think there was a card in Tarkir Dragonstorm that was like 4 mana for a 2/4 double strike prowess, I want to say. That card was really bad, and I think that card might be better than this card. 4 mana 2/2 double strike is really, really bad. Really, really bad. And again, like, you're not going to have that many spells that target creatures, and also it doesn't work with equipment. Equipment or abilities that target a creature. So yeah, I think this is like really bad. It would be like if this got a +1/+1 counter when you got to equip something, like, that'd be cool. I might hang with that, but not this. 4 mana 2/2 double strike, get that out of here. Okoye, Dora Village Leader, 3 and a white for a 3/2 legendary human warrior hero. It's a shame I couldn't pronounce this because this card is really good. When it enters, you create 2 1/1 white soldier creature tokens, and your attacking creature tokens have first strike. This is a B-. This card is better than Kyoshi Warriors. Kyoshi Warriors 4 mana 3/3, you get a 1/1, both of them being allies. This one, 4 mana 3/2, you get 2 1/1s, so more stats, more bodies, and a passive. Like, yes, in this case you only get one creature that has the relevant creature type, the hero creature type. But it's like, Kyoshi Warriors is a C+, this card is better. I'm putting it as a B-. This is really strong. Wakandan Drone Flock, 3 and a white for a 3/3 robot, artifact creature with flying. When this creature enters Scry 2, I think C-. 4 mana 3/3 flying is fine. I don't think the artifact really matters at all for white. And when this creature enters Scry 2, like, I think that's right underneath where I would say would be needed to be a C. 4 mana 3/3 flying is understated. Maybe that's like a D+, and we're right under becoming like a C, I think. White Widow, Free Agent, 3 and a white for a 2/3 legendary human hero villain. When White Widow enters, choose 1, put a +1/+1 counter on each of up to 2 target creatures, and return target artifact or enchantment card from your graveyard to your hand. The base case is going to be the first one, where you put a +1/+1 counter on each of up to 2 target creatures. That draws a lot of similarities to the Earth Kingdom Soldier or something. I think that was 4, and a Selesnya for a 3/4 that had the same, put a +1/+1 counter on up to 2 target creatures you control. That card was a C, and I think that this card is better first because obviously it comes out a turn earlier for -1/-1 in stats. But this being, let's say, usually it's going to be a 4-mana 3/4, put a plus, and another creature also gets a +1/+1 counter. Like, that is good. That's already above a C, and I think that the second ability is fairly narrow. You just don't play that many artifacts or enchantments, but of course, like, in some cases, it's going to be better than playing the, than getting the 2 +1/+1 counters. In all, like, I think this is a C+. It has all the parts there. Earth Kingdom Soldier is a C, and I think that this has enough. It comes out a turn earlier and has the flexibility if you need it for the artifact or enchantment, where it couldn't be a C+ instead. Burrow Backup, 4 and a white for a sorcery. Create 2 3/2 white hero creature tokens with vigilance. It also has basic land cycling for 2. This is somewhat similar to the card, I think, from Neon Dynasty that was 6 for 3 2/2s with vigilance. 5 for 2 3/2s with vigilance is pretty good. I mean, that's pretty aggressive, actually. And ability to land cycle for 2, that is good, and 2 colors. Each of the colors has a common that does this, the basic land cycling for 2 colorless, or for 2 generic, I should say. But yeah, I think that this card, 5 mana for 2 3/2s with vigilance, that is good enough on its own, and it's great that they're heroes. Yeah. Captain Marvel Spaceborne, 4 and a white for a 4/4 flying vigilance, legendary Kree soldier hero. As long as an opponent has cast a spell this turn, you may cast spells as though they had flash. I think this is a C+. I know I said Sarah Angel is basically a C- level card, and so, like, how is this that much better than Sarah Angel? First of all, minorly it's better because it only costs 1 white instead of 2 white. But is that ability that good? Maybe. I think it's at least good enough to be a C. I think C+ is debatable between those two. Invisible Woman, Sue Storm, 4 and a white for a 2/5 legendary human hero with lifelink. Whenever you put 1 or more +1/+1 counters on 1 or more other heroes you control, you may create a 0/4 colorless wall creature token with Defender. Actually, I put this as a C, and I think I want to downgrade it because I think I didn't understand that you had to put it on a other hero that you control. That makes it a lot more difficult. A 5 mana 2/5 with lifelink, like, that's not good. A 4 mana 2/5 with lifelink would probably be playably okay. Like maybe you put that in your deck, but I have to downgrade this. I think it's probably like a D+ because you can't put the counters on your creature. It is good if you trigger it once. Oh, sorry, you can't put the counters on this creature. So yeah, D+, I'll change it to. Okay, that's all the white cards. Now we're going to move on to the blue cards. The first being Ariel Doombot. Blue for a 1/1 artifact robot villain with flying. Power up, 5 and a blue. Put 3 +1/+1 counters on this creature. 1 mana 1/1 with flying is fine. Like, probably a little bit unhappy. And a 6 mana 4/4 with flying is pretty bad. I'm going to make it a C-. I think it honestly probably would have been a C-, maybe like a D+, if it was just like blue for a 1/1 flying with no other ability. But the fact that it's an artifact and it has this thing, maybe C-. I don't want to talk about this too long. It's pretty boring. I don't think it's very. Next, Kid Loki. Blue for a 1/1 legendary god hero villain. Each creature you control that you've put 1 or more +1/+1 counters on this turn has hexproof. Whenever you draw your second card each turn, put a +1/+1 counter on Kid Loki. So this works fairly well with, like, Connive, for example, but I think the tricky thing is, like, how do you put a +1/+1 counter at instant speed? I think that requires you to be using, like, another card, like a actual card that instant speed puts +1/+1 counters on your creatures. Like, that would be like the big swing that allows you to fizzle a card, like your opponent's removal spell, is if you were able to put a +1/+1 counter at instant speed. But that's not very easy to do. There's only a few ways, like take up the shield, or obviously like something that allows you to draw 2 cards at instant speed. But overall, I think it's like C. It has some stuff there. Being able to connive once and put the +1/+1 counter, like, that's pretty good. But this is not, like, it doesn't give all your creatures hexproof or something like that. Like, that would be crazy. It's not that easy to put the +1/+1 counter on your opponent's turn. Next, Pim Particles. Blue for a sorcery. Target creature gains vigilance until end of turn and can't be blocked this turn. Draw a card. I think that this is a power creep version of Slip Through Space, I believe is a card. But yeah, C. 1 mana to draw a card, that's fine. But, you know, compare this, for example, to that white card I mentioned earlier that created the clue token that investigated. Like, if the creature gets removed, you do not get to draw a card. Stature, Size Shifter. Blue for a 1/1 legendary human hero. Stature can't be blocked if her power is 1 or less. Power up for X blue blue. Put X +1/+1 counters on Stature. think this is a C minus. 1 mana for a 1/1 that can't be blocked in a set that doesn't have ninjutsu or sneak or something. Like, I don't think that's super good. And then for the power up, it's very similar to those green like Hydra creatures that are like X green or something, and you like enters with X plus 1. Like that's basically is like you can get a 3 mana 2/2, a 5 mana 4/4, a 7 mana 6/6, something like that. If you play it on the same turn where you cast Stature and then you also activate her power up ability, that's the way the stats work out. But do you really want that? I don't think that's very good. Playing like a 5 mana 4/4 or something. Next, Super Intelligence, blue for enchantment aura. Enchant creature. At the beginning of the upkeep of the enchanted creature's controller, that player draws a card. I think it's a C minus. You usually get 1 card out of this, I think. But I don't know. It's like if you get 0, it's bad, obviously. And then you got 2 for 1, although it did only cost you 1 mana. And I think most of the times you get 1 before your opponent plays some removal, and then it's like a 1 for 1. Next, Bold Biochemist, 1 and a blue for a 1/3 human scientist, power up for 5 and a blue, put a +1/+1 counter on this creature and draw 2 cards. I put this as a C+, and I know this is not Shine Striker, because Shine Striker is a 6 mana 4/4, or sorry, 6 mana 3/3 flying that drew you 2 cards. But this is effectively a 6 mana 2/4 that draws you 2 cards, and a 6 mana 2/4 that draws you 2 cards is not that bad. And if you play this on 2, again, this is one of the cards where your opponent will want to remove this. It's what is the card in Secrets of Stream? Like Landscape Painter, right? Landscape Painter, 2 mana 2/1, and then in the future you would have like 5 mana draw 2 cards. Like this is fairly similar, except it's for 6 mana. You get a +1/+1 counter and you draw 2 cards. Plus it's at instant speed. So I think like this card is at least Landscaper plus, because there are also instances in which Landscape Painter would be like 2 mana and then you pay 5 mana on turn 7 for a 2/1 that draws you 2 cards. But this is 6 mana for a 2/4 that draws you 2 cards, which is demonstrably better. Yeah, I think this has the right pieces. Maybe C, but I feel fairly confident this is not a bad card. Okay, Falcon's Wing Harness. 1 and a blue for a equipment. When this equipment enters, attach it to target creature you control. Equipped creature gets +1/+1 and has flying and ward 1. Equipped for 2 and a blue. I think C+. The ability to do that one time, like would you pay 1 mana to give a creature +1/+1 flying and ward 1 at sorcery speed, let's say like as an aura? I think that by itself might be good enough. Ward 1, the flying +1/+1, like that might be good enough. And to pay an extra mana to get that equipment at the back end, like that is strong, because repeatedly giving your creatures flying and +1/+1 and ward 1, I think that is enough, where even if you're not playing like an artifact deck or whatever, I think you are going to want to give your creatures flying enough of the time where like there's enough here to make it a C+. It's not just build around if you're playing artifacts or something like that. Next, Futurist Forge, 1 and a blue for an artifact. When this artifact enters, you draw a card. Then you can pay 3 and a blue, sacrifice this artifact to draw 2 cards. I think this is a build around like D+ or something. I think this card does not compare well to Sewer Valence Cam. You don't really want to play this on 2. 2 mana to draw a card is bad. And then 4 mana sacrifice to draw 2 cards. Like that's actually fine in my so I believe that's actually fine because you don't go -1 card to do that. But D+, I think it's so slow that you don't want to play this super often. Maybe C-. I think this card is way worse than Sewer Valence Cam. Next, Hydraulic Helper, 1 and a blue for a 2/3 artifact robot with Defender. Tap to add blue. This mana can't be spent to cast a non-artifact spell. I think this is a C+ because build around C+. You need to be playing artifacts first of all. But importantly, you can use this to pay for activated abilities. You just can't cast spells that are not artifacts, but you can use it to pay for abilities. Or for like ward costs or something like that. 2 mana, 2/3 with Defender. That's like not, obviously you wouldn't play that in your limited deck. But I think in the artifact deck, this does enough. Because again, it's one of those where like, if you have the threat that this actually does become 2 mana, 2/3, ramp you for blue, like your opponent is going to want to remove that. Your opponent spending removal to kill your 2-drop is a good outcome for you. Next, Shuri, Wakandan Inventor, 1 and a blue for a 2/1 legendary human artificer hero. Artifact spells you cast cost 1 less to cast. 1 tap. Target artifact you control becomes a copy of a second target artifact you control until end of turn, except it isn't legendary. Activate only as a sorcery. I think this is a build around like C-. It's like you have to be playing the artifact deck to be playing this, and I just don't think you really use that activated ability very often. Like I think like usually the good outcome for you is she reduces the cost of 1 card that you play. Let's say on turn 3 you can play a 4-drop, on turn 5 you can play a 5-drop, one of those two. Like that would be a good outcome. But in other cases, it's like you played a 2-mana 2/1. On turn 3 you play a 3-drop. On turn 4 you play a 4-drop because those are the best things that you can do on those turns. You're just not going to have the critical mass of artifact spells of which, oh, all of a sudden on turn 3 you're now playing a, you know, like a 3-drop and a 2-drop or something that are both reduced by 1. Like that would be excellent, and yet I just don't think there's enough artifacts where you can realistically have that occur. Next is Super Suit. This is 1 and a blue for an artifact equipment with flash. When this equipment enters, attach it to target creature you control, untap that creature. Equipped creature gets +1/+2 and it has equipped 2. This is horrible. This is a D. This is worse than that aura from Lorwyn Eclipsed. I think it was like +1/+2 and gives your creature hexproof until end of turn. Like that was already a worse version of what was it, like water bending or octopus form? Octopus form from the Avatar set, which was 1 mana instant lesson, +1/+1 and hexproof until end of turn. Like I feel like this version is just getting worse and worse. The whole point of that card was in order to give the hexproof. 2 mana to instant speed, give your creature +1/+2 is atrocious. We say the nay. 1 and a blue for an instant. It has arcane, although that really doesn't matter for this set. It has Teamwork 2. Counter target spell unless its controller pays 2. Counter that spell unless its controller pays 4. And instead, if this spell was cast using Teamwork, C+. Excellent. I think there's going to be many cases in which you are going to be able to pay this Teamwork cost, and then this is even better than Mana Leak. Mana Leak is insane and limited, and I think this card, okay, this card is not Mana Leak, but it's very strong, very strong. Atlantean Cavalry, 2 and a blue for a 3/2 Merfolk Soldier with Vigilance. Whenever you draw your second card each turn, put a +1/+1 counter on this creature. Like, I understand for lore reasons why this is not a villain, but it would be so much better if it was. But a 3 mana 3/2 with Vigilance is not good. I don't know how you're going to trigger this ability. Like, you have to be playing blue-black, I think, for you to realistically trigger this ability repeatedly, since black has a lot of connive. But, like, even, like, I don't know, like, this is worse than Avatar Enthusiast. Like, this, 3 mana 3/2 Vigilance, basically. D+. D Power, 2 and a blue for an instant. This spell costs 2 less to cast. If it targets an attacking creature, target creature gets -4/-0 until end of turn. Draw a card. I think this is a C. You compare this card to, like, it's called like Fleeting Something from Foundations. That card was like 1 mana, give a creature -1/-0 until end of turn, and draw a card. Like, that card actually was fairly decent. And this card, -4/-0 is legit. Like, that can easily turn, like, you know, where someone attacks you with their medium-sized creature or whatever, and you put in 2 blockers against it. Like, that's like a real trade where this becomes a combat trick and you got to draw a card. I think you play this card very often, especially in control. Next, Echo Perceptive Prodigy, 2 and a blue for a 1/4 legendary human hero with Vigilance. 1 and tap, copy target activated or triggered ability you control from a creature source. You may choose new targets for the copy. A 3 mana 1/4 with Vigilance is really bad, and there's just not enough activated triggers. I looked through all of them one time, and there's just not enough where you would realistically want to pay 1 and tap this thing in order to, like, double them. D+. Frozen in Ice, 2 and a blue for an enchantment aura. Enchant creature. When this aura enters, tap enchanted creature. Enchanted creature loses all abilities and can't become tapped. C-. There's been versions of this with flash, and I don't know why this one doesn't have flash. I don't know if it's a lore reason, but ultimately, like, I think there's better blue removal to be playing than this. I Am Iron Man, 2 and a blue for an instant. Until end of turn, target artifact or creature becomes an artifact creature with base power and toughness 4/4 and gains flying. Draw a card. I think this is a C. There was a version of this in Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles. I think it doesn't give flying, but it does give it makes it a 4/5 instead. Yeah, I think that card was fairly decent. I mean, playable, and this card I feel the same way. Unlike in TMNT, there's not that many artifact tokens, however. So I think most of the time you're actually going to have to, like, use it on one of your own things, not like a mutagen token. A real card, I mean. But overall, these cards have played fairly well. Next, Iron Lad, Diverging Destiny. 2 and a blue for a 2/2 legendary artifact human hero with flying and vigilance. You may look at the top card of your library at any time. Reveal the top card of your library. If it's an artifact card, draw a card. So I think, of course, this is a build around, and I think it's a build around like C+. Of course, just being able to look at the top card is like useless, basically. Or it's not useless, but it's not that good without any way to actually manipulate what the card on the top is. But the tap ability, like with enough artifacts, I think you'll be able to use the ability once. In an artifact deck, I think it's a C+. We're missing like one stat point for me to confidently say like C+, i.e. like a 3-2 or 2-3. This could be bad though. Like, I don't even know if this is much better than Iguana Parrot, to be honest. I think it is better than Iguana Parrot, but I don't think it's that much better. Okay, now this card. This is insane. Justice Vance Astrovic, 2 and a blue for a 2/2 legendary mutant hero with flying. When Justice enters, return up to one target non-land, non-token permanent to its owner's hand. Whenever another non-land permanent you control is returned to its owner's hand, put a +1/+1 counter on Justice. Just forget about that last part. You don't actually want to do that. Holy moly, this card is better than Rhymekin Recluse. 3 mana, 3/2. When it enters, you return target non-land permanent to its owner's hand. This is a 2/2 with flying. Rhymekin Recluse is the best uncommon in Lorwyn Eclipse, and I know Lorwyn Eclipse is not a very strong set, but holy moly, this is such a tempo swing. This card is so good. I think B+. This is my 1A uncommon, I think. Best uncommon or common in the set. Rewrite History. 2 and a blue for a plan enchantment. Whenever one or more creatures you control becomes tapped, draw a card, then discard a card and put a plan counter on this enchantment. When the 4th plan counter is put on this enchantment, sacrifice it. When you do, return up to 2 target instant and or sorcery cards from your graveyard to your hand. I put this as a D because actually the first part is better than the second part. Like, your creatures, like looting a card when they attack, basically, that's pretty good. But for 3 mana, you would have to do that at a minimum 3 times for it to be worth it. And your deck might have, like, let's say 6 instants or sorceries in it, maybe 7 or 8 instances or something like that. When this, like, plan, like, I don't think you want to discard your instants and sorceries with this. You still want to be discarding, like, lands or, like, small cost creatures or something. Like, you don't want to discard instants and sorceries just so that you can get them back when, like, the plan is fulfilled or something. I think this is really bad. Like, you also don't want to be attacking for things that you weren't going to attack with, meaning, like, this card only works if you're already ahead. Like, you were going to declare those attacks in the first place, but if you're declaring attacks already, you were already, like, ahead. Yeah, bad. Shield Deployment Drone. 2 and a blue for a 2/2 artifact robot with flying. When this creature enters, create a 1/1 white soldier creature token. This is a B-. This is power crept from that, there was a card in Final Fantasy that was like 3 mana for a 2/1 flying that created a 1/1 hero, I think. That card was insane. This card is even better. And it's an artifact. Really good, really good. But I will say, creating a 1/1 is worse than bouncing something. So I think Justice is still better than this card. Thirst for Knowledge. 2 and a blue for an instant. This is a reprint. Draw 3 cards, then discard 2 cards unless you discard an artifact card. Build around C+ in the artifact deck. This is really good. I think if you can get this to occur half the time, especially at instant speed, draw 3, discard 1 is really good. And in any case, like, even if it isn't, like, Graceful Charity at instant speed is also good. Aim Scientist. 3 and a blue for a 3/3 human scientist villain. This creature enters, it connives, and basic land cycling for 2 generic. C, I think fairly easily you can turn this into a 4 mana 4/4. When it enters, you, like, drew and discarded a card, and that's good enough to play, I think. Basic land cycling again, that's nice. And it being a villain, I think that it just has enough there. Atuma, Atlassian Warlord. 2 blue for a 3/4 legendary merfolk warrior villain. Other merfolk you control get +1/+1. Whenever one or more merfolk you control attack a player, draw a card. C? I think I actually thought it said combat damage, which makes me feel like this card is actually like a C+. Maybe I want to bump it, but, like, it being able to just declare 1 attack and draw a card is, like, good. I think you certainly need to be holding some way to make this, like, trade or, like, even survive after that attack. But and there's questions as to whether you're actually able to do that. But this whole set only has 3 Merfolk, I believe. So the whole part about like other Merfolk, like that part is just for like commander or like whatever purposes. That has no pertinence, no relevance in I'll bump this to a C plus because you can attack just with this, and it can trade, it can like whatever, it can get chump blocked, and you still get to draw the card. Giant-sized flying ant, 3 and a blue for a 3/2 insect with flash flying. When this creature enters, choose one. Tap target non-land permanent, untap target non-land permanent. I think this is a C. I think it is worse than Feybloom Trick, which was 2 and a blue for 2/1/1s with flying at instant speed that tapped a creature. Obviously, this you can tap a creature, you can untap your own creature to make a block, and it's a 3/2 with flying. 3/2 with flying, I believe, is better than 2/1/1s with flying, but it's close. But I think it still has enough there. I think the additional flexibility and the fact that a 3/2, in my opinion, is better than 2/1/1s, does compensate for like the 1 mana. It's not better than Feybloom Trick, but it's still playable. Next, Mr. Fantastic Reed Richards, 3 and a blue for a 2/4 legendary human scientist hero with reach. Whenever 1 or more tokens you control enter, you may draw a card. D+. There's so few tokens in this set. Trickster Stratagem, 3 and a blue for a sorcery. The owner of target creature an opponent controls puts it into their library, second from the top or on the bottom. Then up to 1 target creature you control connives. B-, so much value here. I know it's a sorcery instead of an instant, which is typically what you see, but also it gets put second from the top instead of at the top, which is what you typically see in those 4 mana instant versions of this. The part where it connives is really good. The draw and discard, excellent value. I think like that, I mean, drawing a card and discarding a card is not worth 1 mana, but packaging it together in 1 card, like I think this card is on par with 3 mana sorcery. Your opponent puts the creature second from the top or on the bottom, and that would be really, really strong. So B-. Falcon, Winged Wonder, 4 and a blue for a 3/4 legendary human hero with flying. When Falcon enters, create Redwing, a legendary 1/1 blue bird scout creature token with flying, and whenever Redwing attacks, surveil 1. C+. 5 mana, 3/4 flying, create a 1/1 flying with upside. What? I think this is like really good. Yeah, I don't know. C+. I guess it's kind of a shame that it's not this one that has the surveil 1, but it's the creature token, the 1/1 that has it. But ultimately, like, I mean, flying is really good and limited. I don't know if this guy's name is Wakan or Wyken, but he's a Rising Magician, 4 and a blue for a 4/4 legendary mutant warlock hero with flying. Whenever you cast a non-creature spell, exile another target non-land, non-token permanent, return that card to the battlefield under its owner's control at the beginning of the next end step. C, because blue has enough non-creature spells where you might be able to do this enough times. And, you know, it turns all your instants into cards that basically, you know, fizzle your opponent's removal, and that's really good. Really good. If you have this card, you definitely want to lean towards playing instants. I think 5 mana 4/4 flying in blue, it might be enough. Okay, Atlantis attacks, 5 blue for a sorcery with teamwork 4. Choose one. If the spell was cast using teamwork, choose both instead. Target player creates a 6/5 blue Leviathan creature token with hexproof. Return 1 or 2 target non-land permanents to its owner's hands. C+, I think this card looks really good, and in the past, I make some, like, you know, you package this, like, 7 mana thing as, like, 2 things, Nebula Dragon, Shine Striker, Brilliance Unleashed, whatever. Like, I've made that debate every time. This one does require you to have creatures on the board, you know, something that has at least 4 total power. So there's that, because playing them separately, 7 mana, 6/5 with hexproof, that's like, and 7 mana, return 2 non-land permanents, that's just not good enough. So you really want to be doing these 2 things together. So that's the reason why I don't want to make the comparison to, you know, Nebula Dragon, Shine Strike, or whatever, where you kind of got to do those things, like, even without setup, those cards were good. Same with, like, Brilliance Unleashed. But when you get this off, I think it is very strong. One of my doubts is that this format does not seem like a slow format. I don't know, like, you don't typically get to 7 mana on turn 7, right? So like maybe turn 8, sometimes turn 9 is when you actually get to 7 mana. And I'm doubtful that this format will be slow enough where you will be able to survive to turn 9 that often. I think you have to have enough removal, good creatures, whatever, in order to ensure that when you get to turn 8 or turn 9 or whatever, that you're actually able to cast this. But once you do, like, yes, this does really stabilize the board and can, like, move you from a losing position into a winning position, which is really good. But I think there's going to be other games in which this is basically unplayable because you don't ever get to 7 mana. Next, Project Deathlock Soldier. This is the first black card. Black for a 1/2 artifact zombie soldier. It has the activated ability 2 and a black to return this card from your graveyard to your hand. Synergy C, 1 mana for 1/2 with artifact, and some ability like 2 or more creatures in your graveyard, like some synergy there. Yeah, it's fine. Whiplash Vengeful Engineer, black for a 2/2 legendary human artificer villain. Whiplash enters tapped. Whenever Whiplash attacks, if he's equipped, each opponent loses X life and you gain X life, where X is the number of equipment attached to him. I think you basically compare this to like Diregraph Ghoul, 1 mana, 2/2, enters tapped. And I think this is like minorly better, like very minorly. Diregraph Ghoul is actually a fine card, like probably not super happy playing it, but it's like okay. But yeah, I mean, this is a villain. I think that's really important, whereas Diregraph Ghoul did not have a relevant creature type. Agents of Hydra, 1 and a black for a 1/1 human spy villain. When this creature dies, create a 2/1 black villain creature token with menace. C, 1/1 that floats into a 2/1 villain with menace. That's good enough. Alright, here is the best black common or uncommon. Dark Deed. 1 and a black for an instant. Target creature gets -4/-4 until end of turn. Are you serious? This card is better than Seer. I'm putting this as a B. You never cut this card. It is so good. It kills every 1-drop, 2-drop, 3-drop, maybe nearly every 4-drop. It kills some 5-drops. So good. Dark Deed. Decoy Ploy. 1 and a black for an instant. Choose one or both. Return target villain card from your graveyard to your hand. Return target hero card from your graveyard to your hand. I think if you are playing the decks that have both, like white-black, or I think black-green also has villains and heroes, yeah, I think this is built around C. If you have both. But if you're playing, for example, like black-red that has very few heroes, I think you do not play Decoy Ploy because only getting one creature is not good enough. Red Room Recruit. 1 and a black for a 1/2 human spy villain. When this creature enters, it connives. Synergy C. It's kind of funny that like even a card that has this basic 2 mana, 2/3 that drew and discarded a card, or like 2 mana, 1/2 you drew a card and discarded a land. Like both of those are fine. And it's a villain. We like when it's a villain. Stolen Stark Tech. 1 and a black for an equipment with flash. When this creature enters, attach it to target creature you control. That creature gains indestructible until end of turn. Equipped creature gets +1/+0, and it has equip 1. So the part where on future turns you pay 1 mana, give your creature +1/+0, like that is so useless. You're never gonna be like you're never using that to like with great like value or something. So really the question is a 2 mana instant, let's say, where your creature gets +1/+0 and indestructible until end of turn. Is that good? Like that, I believe, is worse than other iterations we've seen in the past that give your creature Death Touch or Lifelink or both or something like that, or maybe gives a +1/+1 counter. For example, like this card compares very poorly to Take Up the Shield, which I know is a white card, but D+. I don't think you want to play this card. I think it would have to give Death Touch, which I know is like not flavorful at all, but if it gave Death Touch, then we'd be talking. Swordsman Sharp Scoundrel. 1 and a black for a 2/2 legendary human hero villain. Whenever another villain you control enters, attach up to 1 target equipment you control to target creature you control. Whenever an equipped creature you control attacks, it connives. C+, and it's a build around for sure. You need to be playing good equipment, and equipment are not that good in limited, so you need to be cautious. But at the very worst, I mean, it's a 2 mana 2/2 villain. And of course, if it even triggers 1 time that second ability, like then you're really ahead on that exchange. And this card would be like great. So build around C+ if you have equipment that you actually want to play. Next, Widow's Bite. 1 and a black for an instant with Teamwork 3. Choose one. If the spell was cast using Teamwork, choose both instead. Target creature gets Death Touch until end of turn. Target creature gets -2/-2 until end of turn. I think it's a C+. I think there will be enough times where defensively you can turn one thing into a trade by giving Death Touch. I think usually that's how it's going to go. You're going to give one of your small creatures Death Touch in order to enact a trade, and then -2/-2 kills one of their other things. Maybe it wasn't even in the combat, but that would be really good. And you can, I guess with the Teamwork 3 it's hard, but you can like declare block and then tap it to pay the Teamwork cost and still give it Death Touch to make the trade, which I think is like a very strong line. Next is Yellow Jacket, Heartless Marauder, 1 and a black for a 1/2 legendary human rogue villain with flying. Whenever another villain you control enters, Yellow Jacket gets +1/+0 and gains lifelink until end of turn. I think that's a D. Like a 2 mana 1/2 flying is really bad. 2 mana 2/2, like sometimes it attacks as a 2/2. Very rarely it attacks as like a 3/2 with flying. But I think overall it it can't block. It just, there's many turns in which it's a 1/2 with flying. Yes, there are a lot of villains in black. Maybe in black red you get enough where this just becomes like a 2/2 flying. But like, what are you trading against? If your opponent actually has something to block with, like, it's like, okay, your 2/2, your 2-drop traded with their flying 2-drop. Like, nope, you didn't really come out ahead on this. But in other cases, like, okay, like, great, you have a 1/2. You just can't block with this thing. D. Next, Arnim Zola, Biofanatic, 2 and a black for a 2/3 legendary scientist villain. 3 tap. Create a tapped 2/1 black villain creature token with menace. Activate only if there are 2 or more creature cards in your graveyard. Build around D+. I don't think you have enough time to use this ability that effectively, and it is a bit unfortunate that the ability costs 3. It's like very awkward, meaning like you don't ever, I mean, not ever, but very, very infrequently do you have the ability to play this on 3 and then use the ability on turn 4, which is like a damn shame. Like, when do you get to use this ability? You don't want to use this ability instead of actually playing the cards in your hand. So I think a lot of the times it becomes 3 mana, 2/3, which is bad. Baron Strucker, Hydra Overlord, 2 and a black for a 2/2 legendary human villain. Villain spells you cast cost 1 less to cast. Whenever another villain you control enters, you may have a connive. Do this only once each turn. Ooh, this is really good. C+. You will play enough villains. I think if you play black, especially something like black-red, maybe black-blue or something, like, I think you are going to play 10, 11, 12 villains in your deck, and this can very easily allow you to play a 5-drop on turn 4, or a 4-drop and a 3-drop on turn 5, something like that. And that would be really great. This card forces your opponent to remove it. When you're playing black, your opponent, it's like removal check. And I've said this over and over again, but if your opponent spends a card in order to remove your 3-drop, even if you didn't get this thing to trigger, like, maybe you're a bit sad because this card is strong, but it's not the end of the world if they actually use a card to remove your 3-drop. Next, Cruel Alliance, 2 and a black for a sorcery with Teamwork 2. Exile target creature with mana value 3 or less. If this spell was cast using Teamwork, instead exile target creature and you gain 3 life. I think the part about you gaining 3 life is probably underrated, but this is a B-. It may be the best, okay, it can't be the best. Maybe it's the second best common or uncommon removal card in the set, especially in black. Hydra Troopers, 2 and a black for a 3/2 human soldier villain. When this creature enters, create a tapped 2/1 black villain creature token with menace if there are 2 or more creature cards in your graveyard. Otherwise, mill 2 cards. Build around C+. Of course, it's going to be rare that on turn 3 you actually get the 2/1, but it's great that in the late game, like, this becomes a 3 mana 3/2 that allows you to, that comes with a 2/1. Like, that's really good. That's worth more than 4 mana. I think the bad outcome, the worst outcome, where you play this as a 3/2 that mills you for 2 cards, at the very least, it like moves you towards the goal of having 2 or more graveyard. Kingpin's Enforcers, 2 and a black for a 2/3 human villain with lifelink. With 2 and a black, sacrifice an artifact or creature, draw a card. 3 mana, 2/3 lifelink is a bit too weak. There was also a card in Lorwyn Eclipse like that, which I think was actually somewhat playable. And again, I think the reason why there was a card in Edge of Eternities that allowed you, I believe, either to sacrifice an artifact or a land to draw a card, but having to sacrifice either an artifact or a creature, like, there's just not that many tokens in this format, which I can't emphasize enough, and especially not like mutagen tokens or land, or what were they called, lander tokens or something. Like, you will actually have to sacrifice a real card, like a real artifact or a real creature that you could put in your deck. So I think this is a C-, maybe a C. Next, Claw Sonic Subjugator, 2 and a black for a 2/2 legendary human rogue villain. When Claw enters, target player reveals a number of cards from their hand equal to 1 plus the number of creature cards in your graveyard. You choose one of them, that player discards that card. I think this is a synergy C+. Yes, so the worst case is 3 mana 2/2, target opponent discards a card. That would be if your graveyard has no creatures in it. But is 3 mana 2/2, your opponent discards a card, good? I think it's okay compared to like those 2 mana 1/1 rats that you see in every set. But, I mean, again, this is a villain. But in the late game, this is really good. I think the difference between your opponent revealing their entire hand versus revealing, like, their hand N-1 is huge, obviously. Like, at that point, you would be discarding their second best card, which I think the drop-off between their best card and their second best card is huge compared to their second best card and, like, their worst card, which is typically going to be a land. But 3 mana 2/2, your opponent discards a card. That's fairly decent. And sometimes it becomes, 3 mana 2/2, your opponent discards their third best card, and that's pretty good. That's good. C+. Ninja of the Hand. 2 and a black for a 2/2 human ninja villain with Death Touch. Power up. 4 and a black, each opponent discards a card. Put a +1/+1 counter on this creature. So the way I evaluate it, first of all, 3 mana 2/2 with Death Touch is bad. Is 5 mana 3/3 Death Touch, each opponent discards a card good? I think that is okay, but not great. I think this is a C-. I think like it's also because like there's no surprise factor in this. Like if your opponent sees you with this on the board, right? Like you play this on 3 as a 2/2 with Death Touch for some reason, which is not a good card. Like there's no surprise factor to the fact that in 2 turns you could put a +1/+1 counter on it and make them discard a card. Like I don't think you want to actually spend your turn 5 paying 5 mana for your opponent to discard a card, but they will just like hold up lands, for example. As long as you haven't like they'll hold lands in their hand. As long as you haven't activated this, they just like won't play their 6th land or something unless they really need to. And then at some point in the game, like this becomes useless because you're like top decking. I just don't think it has that much flexibility. I think the 5 mana 3/3 where your opponent discards a card is the better version. Next is Ronin Shadow Stalker. 2 and a black for a 3/3 legendary human rogue hero. Pay 2 life, add 2 mana of any one color. Spend this mana only to cast equipment spells or activate equip abilities. Activate only once each turn. Tap, sacrifice an equipment attached to Ronin. Target creature gets -4/-4 until end of turn. Activate only as a sorcery. Build around C+. A 3 mana 3/3 is, say a C- level card. And in the right deck with equipment or something, like this can be really good. Paying 2 life to get mana is really strong. As long as you have 1 equipment in your hand or on the battlefield, like that enables so many more equips. The problem with equip is like you don't really want to spend mana to do that instead of actually playing cards in your hand. But I would pay 2 life to equip something all day. Too evil to stay dead. 2 and a black sorcery. Teamwork 4. It's kind of interesting that black seems to have so many of these teamwork cards. Choose target creature card in your graveyard with mana value 4 or less. If this spell was cast using teamwork, instead choose target creature card in your graveyard, return the chosen card to your battlefield. I think some people look at this and think, oh, it can be like Zombify, which is 4 mana and unplayable and limited, and like think, oh, this is like better than Zombify. I think it's arguable whether this card is better than Zombify because Zombify, like you can Zombify anything out of your graveyard. You can reanimate anything from your graveyard for 4 mana. But this, you can only reanimate for 3 mana if you actually have creatures on the board. If you're behind and your creatures have been removed, you can't even bring back your biggest thing. You have to like settle for bringing back something that costs 4 or less, even if you like that's not the best thing in your graveyard. I think this is a D. Zombify is a D, and I don't think this card is better than Zombify. Visions of Villainy. 2 and a black for an instant. This spell costs 1 less to cast if you control a villain. You draw 2 cards and lose 2 life. Synergy C+. Quick is a card called Quick Study, where it's like 2 and a blue, instant speed, draw 2 cards. Like that card is playable. So black, they always put the part where you lose 2 life when you draw 2 cards, fine. But I think very, very frequently this becomes 2 mana, instant speed, draw 2 cards and lose 2 life, and that's really strong in the Synergy C+. Next is Crossbones Malicious Mercenary. 3 and a black for a 3/3 legendary human mercenary villain with Death Touch. Whenever another villain you control enters, put a +1/+1 counter on Crossbones. He deals 2 damage to each opponent. This ability triggers only once each turn. 4 mana 3/3 with Death Touch is not good. 4 mana 4/4 with Death Touch I think is fine, but you're also getting to the point where it's like, what is the point of the Death Touch? And then dealing 2 damage to each opponent, actually that is better than it might seem, I think. I think it allows you to like pressure your opponent in stalled board state. So I think in a deck, for example, like the black-red villain deck, this card is playable. I think you probably play this C-, like maybe you play this in like any black deck anyways because you're going to have villains, but I think in black-red or in an aggressive black deck, this pushes it over where like it becomes C+ level, something like that. Grim Reaper Lethal Legionnaire. 3 and a black for a 3/4 legendary human villain. Whenever Grim Reaper attacks, you may pay for 3 and a black. When you do, return target creature card from your graveyard to the battlefield, tapped and attacking with a finality counter on it. D+. I think, I don't know. It's like 4 mana 3/4 sucks. 4 mana 3/4, like, how do you attack? It's like, on turn 5, when you attack with this, you're going to have to pay 4 to use the ability if you want to. And then it is very unlikely you will have some combat trick or something remaining that allows you to like win a combat instead of trading. So then it's just like 4 mana 3/4, you attacked, your 4-drop maybe traded with their 3-drop, or just like can't even attack because their 4-drop is like a 4/5 or like 5/5 or something like that. And then you just like zombified, and you're zombified, but your creature is forcibly attacking, which is also not good in most cases. It's like you're not gonna have like some insane 7/8 drop or whatever big stats, trample, whatever that you're bringing back. I think this card is horrible. Next, Hour of Defeat. 3 and a black for an instant. Destroy target creature, surveil 1. I think this is a C. There was, like, if this was like 2 and a black, destroy target creature at instant speed, like, of course you play that card. That's like a fairly well understood limited card. The extra 1 mana to surveil 1, I think, makes it worse. Like, surveil 1 is not good enough to justify that. Something like Connive would be good enough, I think, to justify the extra 1 mana. But it's like, this card, for example, is worse than like Gravkill from Edge of Eternities, which exiled a creature or vehicle, or sorry, maybe a creature or a spacecraft or something. But it's like there's not that many cards, especially at common, as removal. I think instant speed removal in this format is like highly prioritized because there's so little of it. So I think you still play Hour of Defeat, despite the fact that I'm not that happy paying 4 to destroy target creature. Hydra Infiltration. 3 and a black for an enchantment. When this creature enters, target opponent discards 2 cards. Whenever a creature you control attacks alone, target opponent loses 1 life and you gain 1 life. I have 3 mana to make your opponent discard 2 cards is not typically played in limited. Actually, I'll just say it's not played in limited. So 4 mana is like really bad. And like how many times would this have to trigger for it to be good? I think it's on the scale of like 4. Like if this thing triggered over 4 turns, maybe, like if this thing was like 4 mana, your opponent discards 2 cards, you lose, your opponent loses 4 life and you gain 4 life, like I think that'd be good enough. But this takes forever, it's so slow, it's unplayable, don't play this card. Moonstone Harsh Mistress is 3 and a black for a 2/4 legendary human doctor villain with flying. Whenever you discard a card, you may exile that card from your graveyard. If you do, until the end of your next turn, you may play that card. Build around C. It works really well with Connive, and it is really nice that it's until the end of your next turn. Yeah, I think 4 mana for a 2/4 flying is like obviously a little bit under the curve, but build around like if with the Connive, I think it has enough where it basically removes that discard as a like downside to your deck. Robot Domination. 3 and a black for a plan. Enchantment. Whenever 1 or more creature cards are put into your graveyard from anywhere, you draw a card, lose 1 life, and put a plan counter on this enchantment. When the 3rd plan counter is put on this enchantment, sacrifice it and create 3 2/2 colorless robot villain artifact creature token. I labeled this as a build around C+, because I think of course you need ways to actually put creatures in your graveyard besides through things like combat or your opponent removing them, so conniving or milling yourself. But like this is really strong. Like 4 mana, not inevitably, but over time, it becomes 4 mana. You drew 3 cards, you lost 3 life, you created 3 2/2s with 3 2/2 robot artifacts. There's so much value here. I think this is one of the few plans that I actually liked, because the creature can go to your graveyard from your deck or from your hand or something. You can do things yourself that enact the plan basically. Unliving Legionnaire. 3 and a black for a 3/2 vampire villain with flying. Power up. 5 black, return up to 1 target creature card from your graveyard to your hand, put 2+1/+1 counters on this creature. I rated this as a C-. I'm not sure if it's better than that one in Foundations that was 5 mana, 3/2 flying, can't block, and returns target creature from your graveyard to your hand. That card wasn't very good. I don't think this card is, if this card is better, it's not better by much, and I'm just not enthused. It's really slow, it's fairly weak. 7 mana, 5/4, return target creature from your graveyard to your hand. Madame Mask. 4 and a black for a 3/2 legendary human villain. When Madame Mask enters, she connives. Whenever you draw your second card each turn, create a 2/1 black villain creature token with menace. Are you kidding me? This is so strong. 3/2 connive, summon a 2/1 for 5. Like, that is really strong. Really strong. Synergy B-. And you get 2 villains. Roxin Brutes. 4 and a black for a 4/4 human berserker villain with menace. Whenever you draw your second card each turn, put a +1/+1 counter on target creature. Basic land cycling to generic. Synergy D+. With enough connive, I think you could play this card, maybe at that point. But it's like, I think you'd have to be quite desperate in a deck that doesn't connive to want to play a 5 mana 4/4 with basic land cycling to generic. Masters of Evil. 5 and a black for a 5/6 legendary human villain. Other villains you control get +2/+1. 1 and a black, discard this card, search your library for a plan, reveal it, put it into your hand, and then shuffle. I put this as a build around D+. Actually, maybe I want to increase that because you might be able to play enough villains. I think the second part where you tutor out a plan is basically useless. But 6 mana, 5/6, give your other, let's say it said give your other creatures +2/+1, like that's really strong. Or that like might be strong enough. Maybe it's like a build around like C- or C, but it has to be in the deck that basically only has villains, not the one that has both villains and heroes. Hawkeye's Bow, the first red common, which is red for an equipment. Equipped creature gets +1/+0 and has reach. Whenever equipped creature becomes tapped, it deals 1 damage to each opponent. Equip 1. D, not worth the card. I think, yeah, it's not worth the card. It's kind of interesting. Like two things going opposite. I know it's a lore thing, but like giving something reach is like obviously a defensive ability, but when it becomes tapped, it deals 1 to your opponent, so it's like offensive. Like it'd be much better if the two things were either both defensive or both offensive. Stark Industries Executive, red for a 1/2 human advisor. 2 tap, create a treasure token. I think this is a synergy C because it creates artifacts. I believe this may be the only way to create treasures in this set. But I think also something interesting maybe is that I would realistically pay 1 to play this creature and then pay 2 to create the treasure on turn 2, which I think you cannot say about some other cards. Like there was the one in Secrets of Strixhaven where you paid 2 for the goblin and then you paid 1 for the like the extra spell that created the treasure. But playing that on 3 wasn't very good because you had to have another 2-drop for that to be like worth it. But this is like very natural. Turn 1, turn 2, and then turn 3 you play a 4-drop or something like that. That's really good. Super Speed, red for an enchantment aura with flash, enchant creature. When this aura enters, enchanted creature gets first strike until end of turn. Enchanted creature gets +1/+0 and has haste. I think this is a C. It's good that it works offensively and defensively. Like if you really want to end the game, you can pay 1 to just give a creature haste. That's cool. But most of the time, of course, it's going to be used to give the +1/+0 on the first strike in order to basically win a combat. Blazing Crescendo, this is a reprint, 1 in a red for an instant. Target creature gets +3/+1 until end of turn. Exile the top card of your library until the end of your next turn. You may play that card. C+, Blazing Crescendo is one of the best combat tricks, especially in red. So yeah, it's like pseudo draw a card since it's until the end of your next turn. So that's great. Hulk Smash, 1 in a red for an instant with Teamwork 4. Choose 1. If this spell was cast using Teamwork, choose both instead. Destroy target non-creature artifact. Target creature you control deals damage equal to its power to target creature an opponent controls. The version of this, Nightfall or something in Lorwyn Eclipse was not good, and I think that this card is also not good. Red should have better removal than this. Like it should unconditionally be dealing 3 damage, 4 damage, 5 damage, whatever. This opens you to getting blown out if your creature gets removed. C-. Hydra Assault Robot. 1 in a red for a 1 artifact robot villain. Whenever another villain and or artifact you control enters, this creature deals 1 damage to target opponent. I put this as a build around C- in the artifact deck. I do think or actually in the villain deck, I think this can become 2 mana 1/3, and over time it deals 3, 4, 5 damage, 6 damage even to your opponent, and that's really, really strong. Obviously, the bad part is that when you play this on turn 2, it's pretty pitiful. You won't really be able to block much unless your opponent played like a 2/3 or something. But yeah, the stats are fairly poor. That's why I'm bearish and not giving like a C or a C+ instead. Unlun Warrior, 1 in a red for a 2/2 human warrior hero. When this creature enters, you may sacrifice an artifact or discard a card. If you do, draw a card. I put it as a C-. 2 mana 2/2 to rummage once is not very good, and you definitely do not want to be sacrificing an artifact. I don't even know if you really want to sacrifice a treasure, to be honest. Maybe, but on turn 2, yeah, most of the time you're going to be rummaging, and a 2 mana 2/2 that rummages once is, I think, just not good enough. Lightning Strike reprint, obviously, 1 in a red for an instant. Lightning Strike deals 3 damage to any target. B-. Lightning Strike's a great limited card. Loki, 1 in a red for a 2/1 legendary god sorcerer villain. 1 in a red. 1 and tap. When you cast an instant or sorcery with mana value less than or equal to Loki's power this turn, copy that spell. You may choose new targets for that copy. Power up. 4 in a red. Put 2 +1/+1 counters on Loki. This card is useless. I think this is Misty Knight, hero for hire, 1 in a red for a 3/1 legendary human detective hero. 2 tap, discard a card, draw a card for each card you've discarded this turn. I put it as a build around C. 2 mana for a 3/1 is fine. There's not that many ways to deal 1 damage. I think when you compare this card to, like, let's say Yuyan Archers, 3/1 reach, when it enters you can rummage once. I think this card is worse than Yuyan Archers, but if you get it off with, like, where you can draw 2 cards 1 turn, I think that this becomes, like, significantly better. I don't think you're going to be doing this often where you're actually rummaging, where, you know, you pay 2, you discard, and then you draw 1 card. I think that will generally be bad for you. You would have to be in a pretty bad game state for you to want to do that, but with conniving, this can easily become 2 discard a card to draw 2 cards, and that's great. Photon Blast Barrage, X red for a sorcery. When you cast this spell, copy it X times. You may choose new targets for copies. Photon Blast Barrage deals 1 damage to target creature. I put this as a B- because of its flexibility. So basically, for the amount of mana you pay, you get to split 1 damage. You get to deal 1 damage, like that much mana -1. So for 5 mana, you'd be able to split 4 damage as freely as you'd like to target creatures. I think that has enough flexibility where it's good enough to play. It might sound bad, but like three mana to kill 2 things with 1 toughness, 4 mana to kill something with 2 and something with 1, whatever. Like, that's really good. 1 card destroying 2 cards. Like, that's really what you want to be doing. 2 for 1 your opponent. Of course, like, there's going to be instances in which you just have to pay this like 6 mana to deal 5 to their 1 thing, and that's like not so good. But that's not even that bad at that point in the game. Speed Young Avenger, 1 and a red for a 2/2 legendary mutant hero with haste. Whenever you cast a non-creature spell, you may pay 1. When you do, target creature with haste can't be blocked this turn except by creatures with haste. I think this is like kind of useless. That second part, 2 mana 2/2 with haste is fine. I think it's a C. Team Tactics. 1 and a red for an instant with Teamwork 1. Target creature gains double strike until end of turn. If the spell was cast using Teamwork, that creature also gains trample until end of turn. I think C-. It's a combat trick. I don't like combat tricks very much. And although double strike and trample does work fairly well. But yeah, I think I'm not that excited about this. Yeah, I just don't like combat tricks. Visions of Love, 1 in a red, instant. You may sacrifice an artifact or discard a card if you do draw 2 cards. D+, this is a functional reprint of cards we've seen in the past, and it's just not worth a card typically. Death to Our Enemies, 2 in a red. For an enchantment plan, whenever you cast a non-creature spell, create a tapped treasure token, put a plan counter on this enchantment. 4th plan counter is put on this enchantment, sacrifice it. When you do, it deals 7 damage divided as you choose among 1 or 2 targets. The worst case, if you actually build a plan, is dealing 7 to your opponent's face, and that's not that bad. But being able to create the treasure token is like pretty good. I think this is a build around C, build around because you actually have to be playing enough non-creature spells. I think if you play a deck that has 6 non-creature spells, like this is atrocious. 6 other ones besides this. But if you're playing a deck, for example, that has, let's say, like 13 creatures, 11 non-creature spells, it might be good enough. Just the ability to create the treasure token, if you're playing, for example, the artifacts, like you might be able to get enough value. Maybe you're pinging your opponent for 1, maybe whatever is triggering from having artifacts, like there can be enough there. Build around C. Okay, Evil's Thrall. I think this card is pretty funny. 2 in a red for a sorcery. Gain control of target creature until end of turn. If you control a villain with greater mana value than that creature, gain control of that creature until the end of your next turn instead. Untap that creature, it gains haste until end of turn. So cards like Act of Treason, where you pay 2 in a red to take their best creature for a turn and it gains haste, those have typically not been good enough in limited. But when you play the villains deck and you take a creature for 2 turns, I think it's there. Yes, you have to have a villain that has greater mana value than their creature, but ultimately, like within 2 turns, I think you'll have enough aggression, or you'll be able to take down their board for long enough. Because again, like they actually lose their creature during their own turn too, which that's really good. So if you're playing the villains deck, I think Evil's Thrall, it might be enough. This might be my boldest call because typically these steal a creature for a turn cards are just not good enough. But I feel that taking it for 2 turns, there's enough juice. Okay, meanwhile, this has 0 juice. Hex Magic, 2 in a red for a sorcery. Exile all the cards from your hand, then draw that many cards. Until the end of your next turn, you may play the cards exiled this way. This is an F. Don't play this card. There's no way your deck has like low enough mana cost where like you can actually play all these cards that you exiled from your hand. This is so bad. Hire Crew, 2 in a red for an instant. Create a 2/1 black villain creature token with menace. Then creatures you control get +0 until end of turn. put this as a D plus. It's like a 2/1 with flash that gives your creatures +1/+0 until end of turn. I think is like kind of bad. Like, I mean, that's basically what this is. It's like really bad. I wish the creature came with haste. That would make it so much better. That way you could use it offensively. Like on your main phase 1, 3 mana, 2/1 with haste, and then all your creatures get +1/+0. No, now you're attacking with a 3/1 menace, and your creatures all got a little buff. That would be playable. But without it, it's like, what is the point? Also, why is it called Hire a Crew when it creates 1/2/1 black villain? I don't understand. That's not a crew. Human Torch, Johnny Storm, 2 in a red for a 2/2 legendary human hero with flying. Whenever you draw a card, if you control another hero, Human Torch deals 1 damage to target opponent. Power up, 6 in a red, put 3 +1/+1 counters on Human Charge. This card is atrocious. This is D+. Don't play this. There's like a cycle of like the all 4 Fantastic Four where they like make an infinite combo. Like that's the whole point of this, but it's so bad. Iron Fist Living Weapon, 2 in a red for a 2/3 legendary human warrior hero. Whenever you cast a spell that targets a creature you control, Iron Fist gains tap. Iron Fist deals damage equal to his power to any other target until end of turn. I put this as a build around C+, because you don't play a 3 mana 2/3 that does nothing in your deck. So with the right build around, like tap to deal 2 to any target is so good. Tap to deal 3, 4, 5. Like this with Blazing Crescendo, holy moly. Like that would be like this, Blazing Crescendo, you deal 5 to any target, you exile the top card of your library, you can play until the end of your next turn. Holy, that's a game-winning combo. So I think build around C+. This will draw removal, which again is really good for your 3-drop. Jessica Jones, Private Eye, 2 in a red for a 2/3 legendary human detective hero. Tap, put a stun counter on Jessica Jones, exile the top X cards of your library, where X is Jessica Jones' power. You may play those cards this turn. I put this as a D. You never play this on turn. I mean, you play it, sure, you play it as turn 3, but you're really sad playing a 2/3 on turn 3. And then it's like, I don't know, what do you do on turn 4? You tap this, your creature becomes useless until turn 6, and then you like exile 2 cards, and you can play them on this turn, not even like until the end of your next turn or something. Yes, in the late game, like this can help you win in the late game by drawing 2 cards every 2 turns, but it's so slow. Machinesmith Automaton, 2 in a red for a 2/2 artifact robot villain with trample. Whenever another artifact you control enters, put a +1/+1 counter on this creature. I actually think this card compares favorably to Avatar Enthusiast because it has trample. Avatar Enthusiast, you could actually play a deck that had like 14 allies in it, and then basically every creature you played would give it the +1/+1 counter. That is not the same in this, where you're not going to be playing 14 artifact creatures, but I think it has enough where your opponent might spend removal, or like it becomes a 4/4 with trample, 5/5 trample. If you're playing the blue-red artifacts, I think you can get it there. But I also don't think blue-red artifacts is very good, just to be clear. Volcanic Villain, 2 in a red for a 3/2 creature villain with haste. Power up, 5 in a red, put 2 +1/+1 counters on this creature. A 3 mana 3/2 with haste is not good. A 6 mana 5/4 with haste is not good. I'm giving this a D+. Crimson Operative, 3 in a red for a 3/2 human villain with prowess until end of turn. Sorry. When this creature enters, exile the top card of your library. Until the end of your next turn, you may play that card. I think this card is very similar to like that Otter from Bloomborough. I think that was a 4/2 without prowess, but that card was bad, and I think that this card is bad. 4 mana 3/2 with prowess. The stats are so weak. No. Hawkeye, Young Avenger, 3 in a red for a 2/4 legendary human archer hero with reach. If a source you control would deal non-combat damage to an opponent or a permanent an opponent control, instead it deals that much damage plus X, where X is Hawkeye's power. Build around C+ with enough removal. It turns all your 2 damage into 4 damage. Your lightning strikes start dealing 5. Like that's very significant. A 4 mana 2/4 with reach is fairly difficult to remove. But I think you're going to have enough like ways, I guess. This makes all of your like removal spells in red so much better, and red does lack strong removal. Repulsor Blast, 3 in a red, sorcery, teamwork, 2. Repulsor Blast deals 5 damage to target creature. If this spell was cast using teamwork, it also deals 2 damage to that creature's controller. I put this as a D+. I don't know why it's a sorcery. I don't know why it deals 5 instead of 6. It usually deals 6, like 4 mana sorcery deals 6 to target creature. Maybe I just like am a hater of the fact that it's not an instant, and a hater of the fact that it doesn't deal 6, and that's why I'm giving it a D+. But I also think like that teamwork thing is like pretty bad. Like, why? I wish it was just like, oh, teamwork 2, this deals 8 instead. Then it could basically kill any creature. I don't know. Truck Toss, 2 red for an instant. This spell costs 2 less to cast if you control a vehicle. Truck Toss deals 4 damage to any target. I really wanted to like this card, and it's like almost 2 mana, deal 4 to any target. But I believe there are 3 vehicles in this set, and one of them is blue. This is a C-, 4 mana instant speed to deal 4 damage. Unfortunately, like that is probably good enough to put into your deck, but it's like, why? Why does it have to be like a vehicle? Like, I know, I get it. It's called Truck Toss. So you have to toss like a truck or like a vehicle. But it's just like, and like, why doesn't it destroy the vehicle after like? Okay, whatever. I think my immersion is destroyed, and this card is underwhelming. Kree Sentinel, 4 and a red for a 5/5 artifact Kree robot villain with reach. Basic land cycling 2, synergy C- in the artifact deck. Maybe you play this. Maybe you play it because ability to tutor for a basic land is good enough. But 5 mana 5/5 reach is pretty bad. Wonder Man, Hollywood Hero, 3 red for a 4/4 legendary human performer hero with flying. Each power-up ability of permanents you control can be activated an additional time. You can power him up for 5 red, put 2 +1/+1 counters on Wonder Man. So you're usually going to be playing this either as a 5 mana 4/4, or, I mean, obviously as a 5 mana 4/4 or as a 7 mana 6/6 with flying. Synergy C, yeah, if you have enough power-up abilities, like it can be valuable. There are some that are really good, like that blue, I think it was the 1/3 for 2 mana that had the power up that allows you to draw 2 cards. Like that's really good. But a lot of the power up abilities just put additional +1/+1 counters, and those are just, they cost a lot. And I don't think that you get like that many. Okay, technically yes, you can play this also as a 9 mana 8/8 with flying. If you have 6 red mana. Oh, sorry. Actually, you don't need the 6 red mana. You can just play it with 2 red mana. Red Hulk, 4 red for a 6/7. Legendary Gamma Berserker villain with reach and trample. Whenever Red Hulk is dealt damage, put a +1/+1 counter on him. When you do, he deals damage equal to the number of +1/+1 counters on him to any other target. I think it's a C. 6 mana 6/7 reach trample. This is removal check. Your opponent will go to great lengths to remove this, because if they don't, it becomes, a 7/8 that deals 1 damage to something. And then if you're not playing against black or white, like let's say in the world that you're only playing against like the blue-red, red-green, or blue-green decks, Red Hulk is so strong. But 70% of the time you're going to be playing against a deck that has either white or black in it, and then they'll be able to remove this without dealing damage. But yeah, I think this card is very reasonable top end for any red deck. All right, and finally we're at the green cards. Giant Growth, reprint of course. Green, instant, target creature gets +3/+3 until end of turn, D+. Go Nuts, green, sorcery, teamwork 3, choose one. If this spell is cast using teamwork, choose both instead. Put a +1/+1 counter on target creature, and target creature you control fights target creature an opponent controls. I think this is better than Felling Blow, which might sound crazy, but for 1 mana, like giving a creature +1/+1, like that allows your creature to trade up, and sometimes not even trade, sometimes like outright win the fight. And like it's not the end of the world to, like, let's say you have your 3-drop or whatever, you use this, you tap your 3-drop in order to pay the cost, and it fights and kills their 4-drop without it dying. Like, holy, that's such good tempo for 1 mana. Rapid Rescue, green for an instant. Mill 2 cards. You may put a permanent from among the milled cards into your hand. You gain 2 life. I put this as a build around C. I think you might be scared by the fact that only milling 2 cards, like, oh, what happens if you get like 2 instants or sorcery or something? But in most decks, if you play something like 6 or 7 or 8 instants or sorceries, I believe that there is a 95% probability that you end up milling at least 1 non-permanent. You mill at least one permanent out of 2 cards, and you gain 2 life. So in that instance, I think it is good enough to play. And maybe I should call it synergy, because with the decks that want you to have 2 creatures in your graveyard, like that milling 2 cards does significantly add to the probability of you having 2 creatures in your graveyard when you need them. Reptile Dinomorpher, green for a 1/2 legendary human hero. You can pay 3 to turn him into a 3/5 with vigilance and reach until end of turn. You can pay 6 to turn him into a 6/6 with trample until end of turn. I think it's a C. Both abilities are fairly weak, fairly costly, but a 1 mana 1/2 with upside, it can't really be that bad. Rick Jones, Destined Sidekick, green for a 0/3 legendary human advisor. 3 tap, mill 4 cards. You may put a hero or enchantment card from among those cards into your hand. I put this as a C+ build around if you're playing the deck that has the like 2 or more creatures in your graveyard, or the one that has a lot of heroes in it. Then I think that this is actually realistic. And 1 mana for 0/3 has like good stats. I mean, you're obviously, what else can you hope for? I mean, it's not like your 1-drops, even if they were like 1/2s or 2/1s or 1, like you're not really trading against that many things anyways. But 0/3, like, it lasts on the board. If they remove it, great. And if they don't, you get some slow value over time, and it didn't really cost too much. Serpent Specialist, green for a 1/1. Human Snake Villain with Death Touch, power up, 3 and a green, put 2+1/+1 counters on this creature. I think this is like a 1 mana 1/1 with upside, and for that reason I'll give it a C. Call Damage Control, 1 and a green for a sorcery, choose up to 2, return those cards from your graveyard to your hand. Target artifact card, target creature card, target enchantment card, target land card. I think it's a C-. Usually you're going to be wanting to do it with creatures and not any of the other types here, and it's like, the one in Avatar that created the clue, I think it was called like True Ancestry, that's better than this. Claim the Kingdom, 1 and a green for an enchantment plant, landfall. Whenever a land you control enters, put a +1/+1 counter on target creature you control, land counter on this enchantment. When the 4th plan is counter is put on this enchantment, sacrifice it. When you do, put an indestructible counter on target creature you control. C+. I think the thing about this is like it's very easy to get the plan counters, unlike some of the other ones. Like this is by far the easiest way, and so I think that's why it's a C+, because putting +1/+1 counters on your creatures for free, or like for this one 2 mana over time you put 4 +1/+1 counters, like that's really good. And then an indestructible counter, yeah, sure, C+. The only awkward thing about this one is obviously on turn 3 you are likely wanting to play a 2-drop and play a land in order to get the +1/+1 counter on that creature, kind of upgrading your 2-drop into a 3-drop, but it would be very difficult for you to actually use the 1 mana after you play your land. Gorilla, 1 and a green for a 2/2 Ape Soldier Hero. Reach, sacrifice this creature, destroy target non-creature artifact or non-creature enchantment, activate only as a sorcery. I put it as a C- because it can only be activated as a sorcery. Yeah, kind of a shame. Hellcat, Undying Vigilante, green for a 2/2 legendary human hero with haste. When Hellcat dies, return her to the battlefield under her owner's control with a +1/+1 counter on her. She loses all abilities and gains haste. Basically, you get a 2 mana 2/2 with haste that dies into a 3/3 with haste. I put it as a C+, but it's a build around, and that might be surprising. But the reason is because I think you need to be playing a very heavy green deck with like small numbers of the like something. Let's just say like 11 green sources and 6 of the other, or 5 of the other, or something. Because you really need to make sure you can play this card on turn 2. I guess ultimately, like even later turns, let's say you end up playing this on 4, some 2-drop in this, you get a 2/2 that dies into a 3/3. Like that's decent as well, and that's why I gave it a build around C+. But I think you don't want to play this in a deck where you cannot reasonably play it on turn 2, where you actually are going to have 2 forests in your hand. Knight of Wondergore, 1 and a green for a 2/1 Cat Knight Villain with Trample. Whenever you put a +1/+1 counter on another creature, put a +1/+1 counter on this creature. This ability triggers only once each turn. Build around D+, because it's just too small to start. This being a 2/2 would have made it playable, I think, but like even after you get it once, I feel like for a lot of these things, the way I think about it is like, if you get it once, are you happy? And getting a 2 mana 3/2 with Trample, I'm not that happy. There's been 2 mana 3/2s with upside in limited before, and Trample. So like, I don't know. You have to get this twice to be happy, and that takes 2 turns because for whatever reason it triggers only once each turn. Tigra Feline Fury, 1 and a green for a 2/1 legendary cat human hero with flash and trample. Whenever you gain life, put a +1/+1 counter on Tigra. This card is funnily a lot better than a Johnny's Pridemate, which does see play sometimes. But I think it's a build around C-. There's not that many ways to gain life. Undercover Scroll, 1 and a green for a 1/1 Scroll Shapeshifter Villain. As long as there are 2 or more creature cards in your graveyard, this creature gets +2/+2 and is all creature types. Tap, add 1 mana of any color. C+, 2 mana Mana Dork is very reasonable, and in late game or in the middle game or something, it becomes a 3/3. Yeah, that's cool. White Tiger, Ava Ayala, 1 and a green for a 2/2 legendary human hero with power up, 5 and a green. Put a +1/+1 counter on White Tiger and create the Tiger God, a legendary 4/4 green cat god creature token with the Tiger God can't be blocked by more than 1 creature. This is a B-. 6 mana for a 3/3 and a 4/4 is really good. The 4/4 has some upside too. And in a pinch, I think like this is not a 2/2 you really want to play on turn 2, but in a pinch you can play this on turn 2. Maybe it's a bit of a shame, but yeah, it's really strong. The power up ability is better. Again, this is one of the cards where both playing it as like the base card, 2/2, or as like the 6 mana version where you get a 4/4 and a 2/2. Both of those, or sorry, 4/4 and a 3/3. Both of those are really reasonable.
Ant-Man's Army is 2 and a green for a 3/2 insect. When this creature enters, create a food token or a treasure token. C+, really good value. Hercules, Prince of Power, 2 and a green for a 3/3 legendary demigod warrior hero. You can power up for 4 and a green, put a +1/+1 counter on Hercules. He gains vigilance, indestructible haste until end of turn. The reason I only put this as a C is because I think a lot of the times you're going to attack. You're going to play this on turn 5, you're going to attack, and they're going to take 5. So I'm not sure you're going to be able to pressure them enough by turn 5 where they're going to make a chump block or something. And even like because their health total is so low in green, like even if they do chump block in that instance, like okay, great, you just played like a 5 mana 4/4 that killed one of their like 1/1s or something. Like that's a fine card, but usually it's going to be 5 mana 4/4, deal 5 to their face, and that's just okay. Hulkling, Burgeoning Bruiser, 2 and a green for a 2/3 legendary Kree Skull hero, vigilance. Whenever another creature you control enters, if it has greater power or toughness than Hulkling, put a +1/+1 counter on Hulkling. I think it's a C because I think most of the time on turn 4 you're going to be able to attack as a 3/4 with vigilance, and that should be good enough. Like almost assuredly on turn 4 you'll play something that has at least 2 power, or sorry, greater than 2 power. So it'll become a 3/4, a 4/5 with vigilance, whatever, and that's all fine. So C. Mr. Hyde, Monster Within, 2 and a green for a 2/2 legendary human villain. At the beginning of your upkeep, choose one. Put a +1/+1 counter on Mr. Hyde. Remove a counter from a creature you control. If you do, draw a card. Build around C with enough +1/+1 counter. Like I think the like metronome thing where you put the +1/+1 counter and then the next turn you like draw a card and then you put it like that's really slow. But that is like the worst case scenario, and I think that's okay. But I think it's you need some setup and investment to really make it like, oh, on your upkeep, draw a card, draw a card, draw a card, draw a card. Like that is like the real winning situation. But in those instances, like you're already going to be ahead and all that. So I think usually it's kind of going to be like this metronome thing. Powerful Broker, 2 and a green for a 3/3 human villain. For each kind of counter on target permanent or player, give that permanent or player another counter of that kind, activate only as a sorcery. I don't even really know why I gave this a D+. I think I probably should have given it like a C- just because a 3/3 with upside should be good enough. But it's like, It'd be pretty cool if it was like 3 mana 0/0 enters with 3 +1/+1 counter. Then maybe there'd be something. Okay, Punishing Punch. Green's best common and uncommon. 2 and a green for an instant. This spell costs 2 less to cast if there are 2 or more creature cards in your graveyard. Target creature you control deals damage equal to twice its power to target creature an opponent controls. I rated this as a synergy B. Obviously synergy if you like can easily put the 2 creature cards like into your graveyard. But holy, 1 mana to like deal twice one of your creature's power to another creature. Like of course these like bite spells or whatever, they always have problems, but like I think this card is slightly worse than Allies at Last from the Avatar set, and Allies at Last is super strong. So Punishing Punch I think is half a click below that. It's really good. Restorative Technique, 2 and a green. I don't know why this is a sorcery. Target player gains 2 life, then searches their library for a basic land, puts it onto the battlefield, tap, then shuffle. Put a +1/+1 counter on up to 1 target creature. This is like the sorcery version of Precious Wandering, and then you gain 2 life, but I don't know what the point of that is. Also, Precious Wandering allowed you to get towns, which were like the tapped duels, which meant that, like, I don't know, like, there was also synergy there. I'm playing this as D+, because 3 mana Rampant Growth that gives a plus. It's just like, and it's a sorcery. Okay, Pet Avengers, 3 and a green for a 4/4 creature, Dragon Cat Dog Bird Frog hero with reach. Power up for 6 and green, put a +1/+1 counter on this creature, and create a 3/2 white hero creature token with vigilance. I rated this as C+. A 4 mana 4/4 with reach is reasonable, and a 7 mana 5/5 that summons a 3/2 with vigilance, that is good. That is a nice distribution between 2 bodies that I'd be fairly happy to play. C+, above average card. She-Hulk Jade Defender, 3 and a green for a 4/4 legendary Gamma hero with reach and trample. Power up, 4 green, destroy up to 1 target artifact or enchantment, put a +1/+1 counter on She-Hulk. A 4 mana 4/4 with reach and trample is definitely good enough to put into your deck, and there's some upside. Like, yes, against red, it's great that this isn't like non-creature artifacts, but against like the artifact decks, this is extremely good. But against like all other decks, yeah, maybe it just becomes a 4 mana 4/4, and one day, if you really want, you can turn it into a 5/5 for 6 mana. There's going to be some decks in which there are no targets, no like artifacts or enchantments, but a 4 mana 4/4 reach trample is good enough to play. Training Regimen, 3 and a green for an enchantment. Creatures you control with +1/+1 counters on them have trample. At the beginning of combat on your turn, put a +1/+1 counter on target creature you control. This card makes me upset just because of how much worse it is than Additive Evolution, which we just saw in the Strixhaven, Secrets of Strixhaven set. For an additional 1 mana, you get a 3/3. Or is it a 4/4 on the turn it comes out or something? Like, this card is so much worse. Yeah, I put this as a D+. It's like, it's so slow. Without the creature that it comes with, like an Additive Evolution, it's way too slow. Doc Samson, Super Psychiatrist, 4 and a green for a legendary Gamma Doctor Hero, 3/6. You would put 1 or more counters on a permanent control, put that many +1 of each of those counters, kinds of counters on that permanent instead. Tap, add X mana of any one color, where X is Doc Samson's power. I think if you play enough counters, this is playable. Build around C. A 5 mana creature that taps to add 3 mana is like okay. But it's also like, what are you really playing at that point on turn 6 when you can actually use this? Like, how are you using all 9 mana? Maybe you can, but do you really want to be emptying your hand? Like, I don't know. Yeah, C, it's playable. Khazar of the Savage Land, 4 and a green for a 3/2 legendary human barbarian hero. You may look at the top card of your library anytime. You may play lands from the top of your library, and when Khazar enters, create Zabu, a legendary 2/2 green cat creature token with landfall. Whenever a land you control enters, put a +1/+1 counter on Zabu. This is another B-, great card, 2 bodies, 5 mana for a 3/2 that comes with a 2/2 that has upside, and you can play lands from the top of your library. Like, if you do it once, it became like draw a card. Unfortunately, you won't be able to play this likely on the turn that you won't be able to play the land likely on the turn that you played Khazar, because presumably you played a land and cast this. But it's really strong, really strong. Next, Super Strength, 4 and a green, and for an aura, enchanted creature gets +4/+4 and has trample and ward 1. This is atrocious. This might be one of the worst. I think this might be the second worst common or uncommon besides like Hex Magic, because this is just asking to get blown up, right? Like, you play this, you target your creature gets removed, you just paid 5 mana and you got 2 for 1, and they, let's say, paid 3 mana, 4 mana to remove your creature, hard remove it. Like, it's so bad. And it's also just like, what is the point? 5 mana, you get +4/+4, trample, ward 1. Like, is this offensive? You attack, okay, they take it, now your big thing is tapped, and like, they are going to attack you. It's like, and the ward 1, why is it ward 1? It should be like ward 4, probably. Yeah, this is really bad. Don't play this card. Wakandan Royal Guard, 4 and a green for a 4/4 human soldier hero with vigilance. When this creature enters, put a +1/+1 counter on target creature. If that creature is another hero, put 2 +1/+1 counters. Instead, synergy C+, really nothing to complain about. I think compare this card again to like that Earth Kingdom Soldiers, 5 mana for a 3/4 where you could put 2 +1/+1 counters on like separate creatures, or itself. This one, like in the worst case, it becomes 5 mana 5/5 vigilance, which is better than the worst case for Earth Kingdom Soldier where it becomes a 4/5. And then for this one, like, of course there is, when you're playing green, like many of the times it's going to be, 2 +1/+1 counters on another creature. So it's like 5 mana 4/4 vigilance, give 2 +1/+1 counters to another creature you control. That's really strong. Very solid common. Next is Savage Land Dinosaur, 4 green for a 7/6 dinosaur with trample, basic land cycling 2. I gave it a C because the 7/6 with trample is pretty threatening, and trample is pretty good in limited. I think usually if you get to attack with this, they're going to trade 2 of their 4 drops or something in order to try to prevent this thing from steamrolling the game. And then the Thing, Ben Grimm, it costs 5 and a green for a 7/7 legendary human hero with trample. Whenever 1 or more heroes you control deal damage to a player, put 2 +1/+1 counters on the Thing. Funnily enough, I also rated this as a C, and that's because I don't think it's that much better than that dinosaur. The basic land cycling is pretty good, and yeah, I don't know, like, this thing being a 7/7, a 9/9, a 11/11, like, it's all the same. At that point, like, if you get to attack twice, you won the game anyways. So I think you put this in your deck C. And then we've got 10 of these gain lands that are just like functional reprints of the ones we've always seen. I rated them all as C's. So C, Asgardian Citadel C, Avengers Hangar C. Here's Avengers Tower, which is tap to add colorless, tap to add 1 mana of any color. Only use it to cast hero or activate ability of a hero source. 4 and tap, look at the top 3 cards of your library. You may reveal a hero from among them, put the rest on the bottom of your library in any order. I put a build around C-. Maybe if you're playing a deck that has like 15 heroes in it, it's good enough. But the second ability costs so much mana. Basically 5 mana to look at the top 3 and reveal a card. You're never going to do that multiple times. Next is Baxter Building. Tap to add colorless, 4 and tap to add 4 mana in any combination of colors. 4, tap, draw a card. Activate only if you control a creature toughness 4 or greater. This is a D, it's atrocious. 5 mana to get 4 mana in any combination of colors is not good. And then 5 mana to draw a card if you with toughness 4 or greater is also not good. Alright, Burn in Zana Plaza. C, it's a gain land. Fisk Tower, same thing. Hell's Kitchen, haha. C, Los Diablos Missile Base, C, PIM Technologies, Stark Industries, Subterranean Cavern, and then Surveillance Room. This card is Conduit Pylons, but without the Desert subtype. When it enters, you surveil 1, tap to add colorless, 1 and tap to add 1 mana of any color. C+. Surprisingly, the ability to surveil once is really good, and that it sounds a little dumb, but this allows you to keep 2 land hands if this is one of the 2 lands in your thing, because you get to dig an extra card in your deck. It sounds dumb, but there's a lot more hands that you're able to keep by having Surveillance Room. C+. Villainous Hideout. Tap to add colorless, tap to add 1 mana of any color, spend this only to cast a villain spell or activate the ability of a villain source. 3 and tap, target villain you control connives, activate only as a sorcery. This card, I believe, is better than the hero one. I think this is a C+. 4 mana to connive is a lot better than the 5 mana for that thing with the heroes. And first of all, this like 4 mana to just to like loot is not that bad in and of itself. And then the +1/+1 counter is like quite good actually. Yeah, I think this card is better than the one C+. I would put this in my villain deck. Okay, and then some artifacts. We've got Vibranium Energy Daggers, 1 mana for a equipment that's indestructible. Equipped creature gets +2/+2. Equipped for 3, D+. This is way too slow. Aim Synthoids, 2 mana for a 1/3 artifact creature robot villain. When this creature enters, surveil 2. Build around C+. I think really good in the artifact deck. Dependable Quinjet, 3 mana for a 3/3 artifact vehicle. Flying, tap to add 1 mana of any color, and has crew 4. This is basically a Manolith with some upside as a vehicle, but the crew is so expensive. But also melee, it's a C. Manolith is not too bad. Maybe you get some value from the 3/3. Ultron Drone is 3 for a 2/3 artifact robot villain. Power up 6, put 2 +1/+1 counters on this creature, and create a 2/2 colorless robot villain artifact creature token. Synergy C. I mean, this card is fairly reasonable. 6 mana to get a 4/5 that comes with a 2/2 is pretty reasonable in any case. Yeah, I think you could basically play this in any deck. Yeah, and of course it's even better in the artifact one. Viv Vision Teen Synthezoid, 3 mana for a 2/2 legendary robot hero with flying. Whenever Viv Vision attacks, draw a card if her power is 4 or greater. Power up for 7, put 2 +1/+1 counters on Viv Vision. Yeah, 7 mana 4/4, when she attacks you draw a card. That's not the best thing, but 3 mana 2/2, where you can threaten putting a +1/+1 counter or a combat trick or something like that, and then she can start attacking, drawing your card. I think it's reasonable. Synergy C, especially again in the artifact. Kirby Scout Unit, 4 mana for a 2/1 artifact robot scout with flying. When this creature enters, draw a card, then you may put a land card from your hand onto the battlefield tapped. So a 2/1 with flying that comes with the Growth Spiral, I think is a C actually. 2/1 with flying is a reasonable 2 mana colorless card, and then Growth Spiral is a good 2 mana card. Okay, it's not Growth Spiral because the land comes into play tapped in this case, but in limited, it's basically the same thing. So yeah, I think that packaging those two things together, that sounds like it's worth it. Shield Helicarrier, 4 mana for a 4/5 vehicle with flying. When this creature enters, create 2 1/1 white soldier creature tokens and has crew 6. This is so expensive, like the crew cost. I think usually when you see these things, the token that gets created is enough to tap for the crew cost. This happened in Final Fantasy, for example. I think Magitech Armor was the name of the card. It had crew 1 and it created a 1/1, but this is so much work, and I don't know. There's just a lot of things that destroy artifacts, especially non-creature artifacts. So I don't think this card is good enough. But that was the end of the commons and uncommons. Then we will do the evals for rares and mythics next. So the first is Scientist Supreme of AIM. This is blue-black for a 2/2 legendary human scientist villain. Activate ability, pay 2 life, copy target, activated or triggered ability you control from an artifact source. You may choose new targets for the copy, activate only during your turn and only once each turn. I rated this a build around D, which may be surprising, but number 1, it is kind of difficult to cast, needing specifically blue and black on turn 2. Number 2, I just could not find an activated ability that you would actually want to copy from an artifact. I mean, like, okay, sure, if you get some bomb artifact, rare or mythic or something that has an act, okay, you can copy that and maybe then this is playable, but with just like the typical blue-black deck, there's no way you're gonna have enough. This is just bad. Next, the Astonishing Ant-Man.
Green blue for a 1/1 legendary human scientist hero. Whenever you draw a card, put a +1/+1 counter on the Astonishing Ant-Man. 2 and a green, tap, remove any number of +1/+1 counters from the Astonishing Ant-Man to create that many 1/1 green insect tokens. I think this is a C, and the reasons: number one, you're playing a 2-mana 1/1, that's not so good. Number two, again, it's fairly difficult to cast, requiring specifically green and blue. And then, okay, obviously the normal gameplay would be you play this on 2, turn 3, you draw a card, it becomes a 2/2, but you're not paying 3 mana to remove that to turn this back into a 1/1 just to get a 1/1 insect. I think this card is really slow. Maybe C is even generous. There's, especially in blue-green, it's not like this is the conniving deck, so there's not that many ways to actually draw additional cards besides, the normal card draw spells or something. Not like, how the villains have so many creatures that connive, which would then allow you to draw a card and then put +1/+1 counters, yada yada, and you could use the activate ability to get like 4 1/1s or something at once. So yeah, I think this requires too much setup. It's too slow. The Ruinous Wrecking Crew. This is X black red for a 2/2 legendary human villain. The Ruinous Wrecking Crew enters with X +1/+1 counters on it. When the Ruinous Wrecking Crew enters, choose up to X, discard a card, then draw a card. Target opponent loses 2 life. Destroy target token. Each opponent sacrifices a creature of their choice. I put this as a B- because it is ultra flexible. I think usually, in most cases, you'll play it as a 3-mana 3/3 that rummages one time, and that's perfectly reasonable. That maybe is like a C level card. Maybe C+, something like that. But just the flexibility, it can be aggressive. You can destroy a token if that's pertinent. Sometimes you get that edict effect on both sides if it's in your favor, obviously. So I think purely based on the flexibility, B-. Vision Quest. This is X blue red for a sorcery. Search your library and or graveyard for an artifact creature with mana value X or less and put it onto the battlefield with X additional +1/+1 counters on it. If X is 4 or greater, it gains haste until end of turn. If you search your library this way, shuffle. Build around B+ purely because if you are able to draft or open in your sealed pool an extremely strong artifact creature, then you definitely put Vision Quest into your deck. I think for example, Green Sun Zenith X green to tutor out a green creature, that is very strong and limited. And this, although it does cost 1 additional mana, the ability to give it haste, I think, may be worth it. And the creature can be in your graveyard. If this is, in the ultra late game, you've already used your big bomb artifact creature. So build around B+, like really, really build around. Do not put this in your deck if you just have, the normal, what was that Herbie, like 4 mana, 2/1 flying art. Like that is not something you want to tutor out with Vision Quest. Okay, Winter Soldier. This is white-black for a 2/2 legendary human assassin villain with vigilance and menace. Winter Soldier gets +2/+0 for each equipment attached to him. 3 white-black, return this creature from your graveyard to the battlefield with a finality counter on him. Then you may attach an equipment you control to him. Yeah, build around C+. Again, it's difficult to cast. A 2-mana 2/2 with vigilance and menace is fine, but you need to have the good equipment in order to realistically want to play this in your deck. Absorbing Man, 1 green blue for a 4/4 legendary human villain with vigilance. At the beginning of your first main phase until your next turn, Absorbing Man becomes a copy of up to 1 target artifact, non-aura enchantment, or land. Except his name is Absorbing Man, he's a legendary 4/4 human villain creature in addition to his other types, and he has vigilance. I put this as a B because a 3-mana 4/4 with vigilance is really strong. That might be a B- card on its own, and sometimes this helps you. I guess I probably should have called it maybe like synergy. But ultimately, you can target your own thing, you can target your opponent's thing if they have a really strong artifact or enchantment or something. But it's the baseline is so strong here. You always put this in your deck. Ares, God of War, 1 black-red for a 4/3 legendary god warrior villain. Ares attacks each combat if able. Whenever an attacking creature you control dies, return that card to its owner's hand. B-, very solid. Obviously, it returns itself, as well as basically you just... I imagine a lot of games in which you just swing with everything every single turn. You try to build a very aggressive deck if you're playing Ares or if you opened or drafted Ares. Yeah, I think good things will happen. Next, Cloak and Dagger Entwined, 1 white-black for a 2/2 legendary human hero with Death Touch and Lifelink. When Cloak and Dagger enter, choose target opponent and up to 1 target creature they control. They reveal their hand. You may exile a non-land card from their hand or the chosen creature until Cloak and Dagger leave the battlefield. This card is insane. This card is crazy. The card, there's many cards that are in white usually that allow you to exile an opponent's creature until this creature leaves the battlefield. There was one called Earth Kingdom Jailer in the Avatar set. There was also one in Edge of Eternities, I think that had a warp ability. But the fact that you get to look at your opponent's hand, which is really good and limited, and then you can either use like the was it like the Deep Cavern Bat card from Lost Caverns Island? Like it can either be that or exiling a creature from the battlefield. Like this is insane. A minus. It's extremely good. One of probably the best card Orzhov has. Next, Moon Girl and Devil Dinosaur. 1 green blue for a 2/2 legendary human dinosaur hero. Whenever you draw your second card each turn until end of turn, Moon Girl and Devil Dinosaur's base power and toughness become 6/6 and they gain trample. Whenever an artifact you control enters, draw a card. This ability triggers only once each turn. Build around C+, you clearly have to play artifacts in order for this to work. But that second ability is really strong in order to give you all your artifacts and enters ability that basically draws you a card. The fact that it turns it into 6/6s, like that's nice, but you don't necessarily have to be playing an aggressive deck where you're playing an artifact to swing this for 6. I don't really think that's the gameplay for Moon Girl or for the Simic decks. But yeah, build around C+, just put some artifacts in. Thanos the Mad Titan. This is red, white, black for a 4/4 legendary eternal villain with Death Touch and Lifelink. Power up, colorless, white, blue, black, red, green. Put 2+1/+1 counters on Thanos. Choose odd or even. Destroy each other creature with mana value of the chosen quantity. I put build around D. You do not want to play a 3-color deck, and you definitely don't want to play a 3-color deck that does not involve green. I believe that this card will just putting in lands in order to be able to cast Thanos the Mad Titan will significantly decrease your win rate. And yeah, this card is really bad. The Kingpin of Crime. 1 white black for a 1/5 legendary human villain with Extort. The reminder text is there. Whenever you cast a spell, you may pay Orzhov either white or black, and if you do, you drain your opponent of 1 life. Whenever you attack, you may pay 2 life. If you do, until end of turn, creatures you control with toughness greater than their power assign combat damage equal to their toughness rather than their power. I put this as a B+ because, yes, I do think that in an aggressive type of build with Kingpin, you can just start swinging as a 5/5 on turn 4, which is good, but the Extort ability is also good. I think just draining your opponents of 1 whittles them down enough, and obviously it sustains you as you gain 1, and that is something that many times you'll be willing to pay 1 mana for. You'll find the time where you're turn 5, turn 6, turn 7, like you're not able to spend all of your mana with the cards in your hand, and just being able to put in that 1 extra mana to drain your opponent, like that whittles them down meaningfully. I think the fact that you have to pay 2 life in order to activate the the toughness whatever ability, it's not really important. Good card. The Mighty Thor, Jane Foster. 1 white blue for a 3/3 legendary human god hero with flying. Whenever the Mighty Thor attacks, exile up to 1 target non-token artifact or creature, then return that card to the battlefield tapped under its owner's control. Whenever an equipment you control enters, draw a card. Synergy B, a 3-mana 3/3 with flying is good. I'm not really sure how many times you can use that attack trigger in order to actually get some value out of it. Sure. You can't destroy like your opponent's creatures that are tokens or something using that. So maybe it helps. Maybe you've got some good enters abilities. So I called it as Synergy B. You always put this card in your deck if you're playing Azorius anyways. The Serpent Society. 1 black-green for a 3/4 legendary human snake villain with Death Touch. Ward, get 5 poison counters. Whenever another creature you control with Death Touch dies, each opponent sacrifices a non-token creature of their choice. I just don't think there's that many Death Touch creatures, so I don't know. I would think that maybe in your deck you could play 1 more Death Touch creature, like that 1 mana 1/1 with Death Touch. The Ward, get 5 poison counters, I think is fairly pointless. I mean, it's like kind of cute if somehow you're able to stop the first or fizzle the first removal. And then that allows you to basically give this thing hexproof, as your opponent would not be able to cast anything that targets this again. Reminder, if you get 10 poison counters, you lose the game. So yeah, I rate it as a C+, basically just because a 3 mana 3/4 Death Touch is a C+ level card. Next, Alien Invasion. 1 red green for an enchantment. At the beginning of combat on your turn, create a 1/1 red alien creature token with haste, and this token attacks each combat if able. Put a +1/+1 counter on it for each invasion counter on this enchantment, then put a invasion counter on this enchantment. So the way it works, you play it on turn 4, you get a 1/1. Presumably, it attacks and your opponent just blocks and it dies. Then on your next turn, you'll get a 2/2, a 3/3, a 4/4. It's very unfortunate that the creature has to attack. This card would be probably a limited bomb if it didn't have to attack. Unfortunately, probably the first 2 that you send in are just going to be to their deaths effectively. I don't think there's a good way for you to actually, for example, like sacrifice them before they attack in order to get value. But ultimately, I think it's a C+. The card is slow, but as soon as it gets to the 3rd counter, I think you'll be really happy. Once you start summoning the 3/3, the 4/4, the 5/5, there is that inevitability. Like 1 card eventually will win you the game. Yes, it does kind of require you to take turn 4 off, which is not good. But I could see it. The next is Armor Wars. I think this is probably going to be my hottest take, but 2 blue-red for an Enchantment Saga. Chapter 1, you may draw a card for each artifact you control. If you do, each opponent draws a card. Chapter 2, artifact spells you cast this turn cost 1 less to cast. Chapter 3, this saga deals X damage to target opponent where X is the greatest mana value among artifacts you control. So, number 1, let's break this down, okay? How much would you pay for each of these 3 chapters? Let's ignore the fact that chapters 2 and 3 happen on future turns, just to start. The first ability, you may draw a card for each artifact you control. If you do, each opponent draws a card. Would you want to do this if you don't have any artifact? Okay, clearly no. So number 1, you have to at least have 1 artifact. So which means that this requires setup. If you had 1 artifact, would you want to do that? No, right? Because that would mean that you played Armor Wars, which means you go -1 in cards just to draw cards for your opponent to draw a card. So you'd be going card neutral for your opponent to add a card, which is bad. Number 2, that's great. Would you do it with 2? For you to draw 2 cards and your opponent to draw 1 card, that would be card neutral, and you paid 4 mana to do it. So I think, like, in limited, like, you maybe do it if you have 2 artifacts, but if you obviously you do it if you have 3. Draw 3 cards and your opponent draw 1 card, like, that's a good thing. But how are you going to get 3 artifacts out by turn 4? I think most of the times, if you get a good outcome, meaning you were somehow able to play an artifact or an artifact creature on turn 2, an artifact on turn 3, you play this, maybe you draw 2 cards for your opponent, draw 1, but that's not even necessarily a good thing, and you paid 4 mana to do it. Okay, chapter 2, artifact spells you cast cost 1 less. Okay, maybe this saves you 1 mana if you're able to use it properly. If you somehow have a 6 mana artifact to play on turn 5 with that ability, but it's like, okay, maybe you save 1 mana. At the very best, you save 2 mana, right? Like, it's just not that good and limited. You're not going to be playing that many artifacts. Chapter 3, I think, is like almost completely useless. Blue-red is not that aggressive. Why do you want to deal damage to your opponent's face? And there are many times in which this is going to deal like 2. Dealing 2 to your opponent's face 2 turns from now is basically useless. I mean, it's also completely like, it's broadcast to your opponent. If you somehow have some insanely large, like 6 mana artifact creature or something that you played on the second turn of this, the second chapter of this, they're going to remove it, and then chapter 3 is not going to do anything. I think this card is one of the worst rares. Like, the only reason I think it's a build around D is because it is actually like playable. Whereas, for example, like some of the other ones we'll see, like it's just like useless and limited. Whereas this one you technically could cast. I don't even want to belabor the point. This card is bad. Okay, Avengers Under Siege. 2 black-red for a enchantment saga. Chapter 1. Create 2 2/1 black villain creature tokens with menace. Chapter 2. This saga deals 2 damage to each non-villain creature and each opponent. Chapter 3, create a treasure token for each villain you control. Sorry, excuse me. I put this as a synergy B. If you play black-red, you're going to be playing a lot of villains, and creating 2 2/1 black villains with menace, that might be worth 4 mana in and of itself. Like, okay, a 2/1 villain with menace is not quite worth 2 mana. It's obviously somewhere between 1 and 2 mana, so playing 1, drawing, and playing a second one might be worth close to 4 mana. Like if each one is worth 1.5 mana, for example. The second one, I kind of downplay the second chapter because it's broadcast to your opponent, so they're not going to play anything on their turn 4 or turn 5 that's going to die to this, but maybe it helps clear the board a little bit, or maybe it enables some attacks because they don't want to block against your 2/1 villains with menace. And then the third chapter, like, yeah, if you get one treasure, 2 treasure, whatever, like, you'll be able to find a use for those in the future. I think this is really good. You always put this in your black-red villain deck. Next is Daredevil, Man Without Fear. This is 2 red, white for a 3/4 legendary human hero with vigilance and haste. You may look at the top card of your library at any time. Whenever you attack, you may exile the top card of your library. If that card is a hero card, Daredevil gets +2/+1 until end of turn. You may play that card this turn. Okay, Synergy B, a 4 mana 3/4 with vigilance and haste is fairly decent. And then, of course, you can attack on the turn that you play it, and if you play enough heroes, maybe in red-white, maybe you could play like 10. So a quarter of the time you're able to activate this ability and then draw a card via this method. I think that sounds pretty good to me. Synergy B. Storm Windrider. 1 green, white for a 4/4 legendary mutant hero with flying. Creatures with flying can't attack you or block creatures you control. Whenever you cast a spell that targets 1 or more creatures, those creatures gain flying until end of turn. This is just a solid B, a 4 mana 4/4 with flying that, you know, gives your creatures like super flying basically because your opponent's flying creatures can't block. Although it's funny that, I mean, it's for lore reasons, but it's funny that their creatures with reach still can block it as normal. But that's a small minority of the creature cards, I mean. But yeah, your creatures have like super flying, and also giving your own creatures flying via like that second triggered ability or that second ability. That sounds pretty good too. You always play this in your Selesnya. Taskmaster, Mercenary Mimic. This is 2 blue-black for a 3/5 legendary human mercenary villain. At the beginning of your first main phase until your next turn, Taskmaster becomes a copy of up to 1 target creature on the battlefield or creature card in graveyard, except his name is Taskmaster, Mercenary Mimic, and he's a legendary human mercenary villain creature. C+. It's nice. I mean, obviously, like, clone 4 mana to take the best creature or copy the best creature on the battlefield. Is it better than that? I think it probably is, because you can continue to switch to be the next best creature. Even, if one day you remove the best creature, or some later turn you remove the best creature on the battlefield, this can still choose to be a 3/5 on later turns, and then continue to become the best creature on future turns. So I think this is very flexible, and I don't really see a reason why you would cut this from your deck. Wolverine Fierce Fighter, 2 red-green for a 3/5 legendary mutant berserker hero with haste. When Wolverine enters, he fights up to 1 other target creature. If damage would be dealt to Wolverine, instead that damage is dealt, but all of the damage already dealt to him is healed. A-, this is one of the best rares in the set. As I said, Affectionate Indrak is a good card. Actually, it's a very, very good card in Limited. This costs 2 less for a 3/5. You cast this on 4, you have it fight a 3-drop that your opponent played, or a 2-drop. You immediately swing. This is really strong, really, really strong. It's very easy to get 2-for-1s with Wolverine, and that's a great thing for a 4-drop. Next, The Coming of Galactus, 2 black-green for a saga. Chapter 1, destroy up to 1 target non-land permanent. Chapters 2 and 3, each opponent loses 2 life. Chapter 4, create Galactus, a legendary 16/16 black elder alien creature token with flying trample, and whenever Galactus attacks, destroy target land. So I put this as a B, 5 mana, sorcery speed to destroy target non-land permanent. Obviously, that's a bit overcosted. But you're just trying to bide your time until you get to the 4th saga chapter. To be honest, even destroying 1 non-land permanent at sorcery speed for 5 mana isn't that bad. It's worth at least 3 mana, so it's somewhere between 3 and 4 mana, let's say. And then dealing 4, it's the way it works, you deal 4 to your opponents, and presumably they don't gain any life, and then that way Galactus will kill your opponent with its 16 power after that. So yeah, it's kind of funny whenever it attacks, it destroys target land. That's probably for lore reasons as well, but if you are able to get 1 attack off of this, you're going to win anyways. So yeah, great card, B. The Superhero Civil War, 3 red-white for a saga. Chapter 1, gain control of up to 2 target creatures with total mana value 6 or less for as long as this saga remains on the battlefield. Chapter 2, creatures you control get +1/+1 and gain vigilance until end of turn. Chapter 3, target creature you control fights up to 1 other target creature. This is an A. This is one of the best rares in the whole set. Rares or mythics, sorry. Gaining control of 2 of your opponent's creatures is insane for 2 turns. Yes, they don't gain haste, which is a little bit unfortunate, but it is so good. And if you play this on turn 5, you take their 4-drop and their 2-drop or something like that, and then you start wailing on them with your 4, your 3, your 2-drop, and then the next turn you're attacking with 5 things or something. It'll be impossible for your opponent to come back. And then on chapter 3 of this, you can have the 2 creatures kill each other, or have let's say the bigger creature you stole kill their 4-drop or 5-drop or whatever, and trade against that. There's so much value here. I believe I may have rated 1 card better than this, which is in black, but the Superhero Civil War, I believe, is easily the best saga, and probably the best multicolored rare. Okay, Worlds Within Worlds, I don't even want to talk about this one. 5 green, blue, sorcery, exile all creatures. Each player may put any number of creature cards from their hand onto the battlefield, then put all cards exiled this way into their owner's hands. Exile Worlds Within Worlds. So effectively, you cast this and you switch all the cards from each player's hand and the battlefield. This is an F. It is atrocious. There's no way you're ever going to be able to build your deck in a way in which this is purely beneficial for you, nor will it be worth 7 mana to do it. Don't play this card. Okay, now we'll move on to the monocolored, starting with white again. So Nick Fury, Agent of S.H.I.E.L.D., white for a 2/1 legendary human spy hero. It has a very convoluted power-up ability. I don't even really want to talk about it. A 2/1 and for 1 white mana is a C- level card. You can just read the rest of the text, but you're never going to be able to activate it in Limited anyways. And I'll just tell you, it's not worth it. Agent Phil Coulson, 1 and a white for a 2/2 legendary human spy hero with vigilance. Tap, put a +1/+1 counter on each other hero you control. Synergy B, if you play white, you're going to be playing heroes, and you can attack with this on turns, in the early game and in late game. This thing becomes like a engine that gives you the inevitability. Great card. Origin of the Avengers, 1 and a white for an enchantment saga. Chapter 1, Scry 2. Chapter 2, you may put a hero creature card with mana value 3 or less from your hand onto the battlefield. If you don't, draw a card. Chapter 3, put a +1/+1 counter on each creature you control. I think this is a C+. On turn 2, playing this to Scry 2 is actually pretty decent. Plus, it enables you to use the second ability, the second chapter, where you can play a creature. You can make sure you draw the hero that you need, that you can play for free. Yeah, and then putting a +1/+1 counter on each creature you control, it's pretty good. You play this on 2, you cheat out something on turn 3, you play another 3-drop, turn 4, you get the 2 +1/+1 counters, you're attacking with approximately 2 4/4s on turn 4. Yeah, that sounds pretty good to me. Super Soldier Serum, 1 and a white for an enchantment aura enchant creature. Enchanted creature gets +2/+2, has first strike, vigilance, and is a legendary soldier in addition to its other types. Whenever enchanted creature attacks or blocks, attach any number of target equipment you control to it. I think that last part is not super important. I actually gave this a Synergy C because while I really don't like enchantment auras, because of the possibility of getting 2 for 1, I think this one might do enough, where 2 mana to give +2/+2, first strike, and vigilance, that is good. I think if you don't get blown out, meaning like you don't get 2 for 1, you can get a lot of offensive power from +2/+2, first strike, and vigilance. The Mind Stone, this is 1 and a white for a legendary Infinity Stone with Indestructible. Tap to add white. 5 and a white to harness the Mind Stone. That basically means that as long as this thing is on the battlefield, at the beginning of your end step, exile up to 1 other target non-land permanent you control, then return that card to the battlefield under its owner's control. I think it goes without saying that you're never going to harness this thing because it is basically useless doing so. There's no way you have enough enters abilities where it's actually good for you to be paying 6 mana to do that. Actually, 7 mana, since this will be on the battlefield and you'll be using its tap ability. But yeah, this is D+. I think it might seem that playing 2 mana to ramp you for 1 is super good, but you have to remember that playing Rampant Growth is not very good in Limited. It's okay. We've had Shared Roots in 2 sets recently, in Avatar and in the Strixhaven, Secrets of Strixhaven, and Shared Roots is just not very good. Why do you need a ramp for 2 in white? I think most of the times you'd be better off playing a creature for 2 mana and getting board presence, especially in white. So I don't think the Mind Stone is a good card in Limited. Captain America Super Soldier, 1 white for a 3/2 legendary human soldier hero with first strike. Captain America enters with a shield counter on him. As long as Captain America has a shield counter on him, you and other heroes you control have hexproof. Synergy B-. Great card. Everything about it looks good. The only reason I have to tick it down from a B or a B+ is because it requires you to have double white on turn 3. And if you play a balanced 2-color deck, I think it is fairly likely that on turn 3 you will not be able to cast Captain America because let's say you have 2 islands instead or 2 forests instead or something like that. That is the only reason why Captain America is not a B+ level card. Next, and I think fittingly, the next card is Captain America Wings of Freedom, which instead costs 2 and a white for a 3/1 legendary human soldier hero. Flying first strike, ward 1. Whenever Captain America attacks, each other hero you control gets +X/+X until end of turn, where X is Captain America's toughness. I think I'm going to change this to say Synergy B, because if you play white, you're always playing this card. 3 mana for a 3/1 with Flying first strike, ward 1 is good. And yeah, the reason I think this card is better than the other Captain America is because you will basically always be able to play this on turn 3. Yeah, great card. Great card. Next, the Sentry Golden Guardian, 3 and a white for a 5/5 legendary human hero with flying, vigilance, and indestructible. When the Sentry enters, target opponent creates the Void, a legendary 5/5 black horror villain creature token with flying, indestructible, and the Void attacks each combat if able. I gave this a C-. I think there's so many things that have to work for this to actually be good, I guess. Okay, in a world with no removal, you play this on 4, your opponent gets a 5/5, but every turn they're attacking with it, you just block, neither of them kills each other, but then because your creature has vigilance, you start attacking them. But I think this requires so much setup. I think generally it would be a mistake to play this in your deck. You would really have to be lacking for offensive power for me to consider actually putting this in my white deck. Avengers Assemble, this is 4 and a white for an enchantment with flash. Heroes you control get +2/+2. At the beginning of each end step, if you attacked with a hero this turn or a hero entered the battlefield under your control this turn, draw a card. Build around B+, excellent if you're playing the heroes. +2/+2 is really, really big as a buff to give your board. And drawing the card, I mean, it goes without saying that if you even draw 1 card from this, it's really good. And enchantment removal is not that easy to come by. Captain Marvel, Earth's Protector, 3 white for a 5/4 legendary human Kree hero with flash, flying, and lifelink. Power up, 5 white, put a +1/+1 counter on
Put a +1/+1 counter and an indestructible counter on Captain Marvel. B+, really good. 5 mana, 5/4, flash, flying, lifelink. A must remove threat for your opponent. And sometimes your opponent's tapped out and you get to play this on 7 instead, and then it becomes nearly impossible unless your opponent is playing white to remove this. This thing being a 6/5 with flying, flash, lifelink, and indestructible, it would be a game-winning card. So B+. Loki, God of Mischief. This is 1 and a blue for a 2/1 legendary god sorcerer villain. Whenever a player or permanent becomes the target of an ability you control, draw a card. This ability triggers only once each turn. Build around C because you have to actually like there's just not that many abilities, I guess, that target. So if you have enough of those that you actually want, then sure, build around C. But usually this is just going to get removed, and it's not a very 2 mana 2/1 is not very threatening. Okay, the Wondrous Wasp is next. That's 1 and a blue for a 2/1 legendary human hero with flash and flying. When the Wondrous Wasp enters, tap up to 1 target creature. It loses all abilities for as long as the Wondrous Wasp remains on the battlefield. So I put this as a B-. It doesn't work against enters abilities, but maybe some creatures have some cool passives that you can turn off. That's nice. Ultimately, a 2 mana 2/1 with flying and flash is a card that you're going to play, and sometimes that tap ability does something. Sometimes kind of removing the abilities from your opponent's like big passive works. Yeah. Nice card. Your opponent's gonna kill it, and again, using removal to remove a 2-drop, your 2-drop, like that's a good thing for you. Ms. Marvel, Kamala Khan. This is 2 and a blue for a 1/4 legendary mutant inhuman hero. Vigilance and Reach. You have no maximum hand size. Whenever you cast a spell that targets a creature you control, draw a card. Until end of turn, Ms. Marvel gains Ms. Marvel's base power is equal to the number of cards in your hand. Synergy C+. A 3 mana 1/4 Vigilance Reach is fine. Obviously, it's probably a little bit understated, but it's okay. And yeah, if you have spells that target creatures you control, then yeah, cool. Draw a card. It's great. You get it once, you're ahead, and besides that, it like snowballs. Beyond that, I mean. Namor the Submariner, 1 blue for a star 4 legendary mutant merfolk villain with flying. Namor's power is equal to the number of merfolk you control. Whenever you cast a non-creature spell with 1 or more blue mana symbols in its mana cost, create that many 1/1 blue merfolk creature tokens. So clearly this thing starts out as a 3 mana 1/4 with flying, and anytime you cast a non-creature spell, that a blue non-creature spell, you start getting 1/1s. This is very, very threatening. Your opponent is going to be using premium removal in order to get this off the board as soon as possible. So B. I don't really think this thing attacks much as a 5/4 with flying or something like that. If you have 4 merfolks that you've created off of this, there are so few merfolk cards. I believe there are 2 others in this set. That's not really a thing where you're building a deck full of merfolk. So you really are getting them from that triggered ability. Shield, Flying Car, 2 and a blue for a 3/3 artifact vehicle with flash and flying. When this vehicle enters, exile up to 1 target creature you control, return that card to the battlefield under its owner's control at the beginning of the next end step, crew 1. So I rated this as a B. It's usually going to be used to dodge removal, and something else that's kind of neat is that you can use this, you can cast this, target your creature, whatever, crew this vehicle, then the ability resolves, so now you have a 3/3 flying if you want to use it to block or something, and then your creature would still come back after dodging removal. So that's cool. B, great. And crew 1, so that's really nice. There's a lot of 1/1 like soldier tokens and whatnot in this set. Secret Invasion, this is 1 blue for an enchantment aura. Enchant creature you control. When this aura enters, exile up to 1 target creature other than the enchanted creature until this aura leaves the battlefield. Enchanted creature becomes a copy of that creature until this aura leaves the battlefield. Enchanted creature has Ward 2. I put this as a B+. I think it's really good. You basically steal one of your opponent's creatures and it gets Ward 2. Yes, it requires you to have a creature on the battlefield, which is a little bit unfortunate, whereas other cards that allow you to steal your opponent's creature, it doesn't require you to have one of your own on the battlefield. But I think most of the times this is going to be really good. It's good in the late game. It's okay in the early game. But the fact that it gives the creature Ward 2, I think, is also really important. Kang the Conqueror, 2 blue for a 4/5 legendary human villain with flying. Power up, 5 blue. Put a +1/+1 counter on Kang. Take an extra turn after this one. During that turn, power abilities can't be activated. So this is a B, mostly because a 4 mana 4/5 with flying is really good. I don't think you get to use that other ability super often. Once you get to 8 mana, okay, sure, yeah. If you get to 8, yeah, this probably wins you the game. So yeah, B. Although admittedly in limited, getting an extra turn, a lot of the times that really means draw an extra card and play one more thing, and that might not win you the game. But ultimately, a 4 mana 4/5 flying is really.
Leader Super Genius, 2 blue for a 1/3 legendary Gamma Scientist villain. If a creature you control would connive, instead you draw a card, then that creature connives. At the beginning of combat on your turn, target creature you control connives. I think this is one of the best rares in the whole set. I put Synergy B+, maybe it should be higher. When this card enters, 4 mana 1/3, fairly underwhelming, but on the same turn, you end up drawing 2 cards and discarding a card because of, you know, that passive ability, and this can easily become a 2/4, and if not, like, ultimately, the fact that your creature gets to connive each turn, you can, like, choose a creature to connive each turn, like, just drawing and discarding a card each turn is really good. Now you're drawing 2 cards and discarding a card. Plus any other connive abilities also make you draw 2 cards and discard a card instead of drawing 1 and discarding a card. So this is really, really strong. It's probably better than that April O'Neil card from the Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles, and that was one of the best blue cards in the whole set. Ironheart Clever Champion, 4 and a blue for a 3/4 legendary artifact human hero with improvise when flying. Non-creature spells you cast have improvise. Build around C. I don't think you play that many artifacts. Yeah. Multiversal Incursion, 5 blue for a sorcery. For each non-token creature you control, create a token that's a copy of that creature, except it isn't legendary. D. Yeah. This is a win more card in limited. If you don't have the board, this is 7 mana, do nothing. Black Widow's Super Spy, 1 and a black for a 2/1 legendary human spy hero with menace. Whenever Black Widow deals combat damage to a player, that player exiles cards from the top of their library until they exile a non-land card. You may put a +1/+1 counter on Black Widow. If you don't, you may cast the exiled non-land card until end of turn, and mana of any type can be spent to cast that card. Yeah, B, really good. You play this on 2, most likely, or many times you're going to be able to get an attack off, and then, yeah, you will either draw a card by playing the card that gets exiled from Black Widow, or you get a +1/+1 counter, and then maybe you run it back and do this again the next turn. Yeah, really good. The only reason it's not higher is because this is not a win the game card. It's simply a good value engine. Doom Reigns Supreme, 1 and a black for an enchantment plan. Whenever a villain you control enters, each opponent loses 1 life and you gain 1 life. Put a plan counter on this enchantment. When the 5th plan counter is put on this enchantment, sacrifice it. When you do, target opponent exiles the top 5 cards of their library. You may cast up to 2 spells from among those exiled cards without paying their mana cost. I put this as a build around B, and only if you are playing a deck that has nearly all villains, not the one that plays like half villains and half heroes. I think, first of all, actually draining your opponent of 1 whenever you play a creature, that is actually pretty good, and that is something where you'd be willing to take turn 2 off just to do this. If your opponent is unable to remove this enchantment, like, first of all, like, 2 mana to drain your opponent of 5 life over the course of the game, that's quite good, actually, just by itself. And then if you are able to get that thing off, like, that is a game-winning card. Of course, like, you not playing anything on turn 2 might be too much of a tempo loss, but hopefully the life gain allows you to survive long enough where when you play your 3-drop, you drain them of 1, you play your 4-drop, you drain them of 1, and that makes up for the fact that you didn't do anything on turn 2. So I think this is one of the only plans that I actually like. Baron Helmut Zemo, I shouldn't even have to talk about this one. This is black for a 3/3 legendary human noble villain. Whenever you cast a black spell from your hand, Baron Helmut Zemo connives. Boast, exile any number of black cards from your graveyard with 15 or more black mana symbols among their mana cost. Copy those exiled cards. You may cast up to 3 of the copies without paying their mana cost. You are never going to be able to use that boast ability, even if this was on the battlefield, but you're never going to be able to cast this card. I mean, you should not be playing this card in any like situation in limited. You're not going to be playing a mono black deck, F. Construct the Cosmic Cube, 2 and a black for an enchantment plan. Whenever you draw your second card each turn, create a 2/1 black villain creature token with menace and put a plan counter on this enchantment. When the 7th plan counter is put on this enchantment, sacrifice it. When you do, you control target opponent during their next turn. So I think if you get 2 of these off, it is pretty good, but I think it's like a build around D+, meaning if you get 2 of them, meaning if you are able to summon 2 of the 2/1s with menace, don't even think about the situation in which you're able to get 7 plan counters, because you can only get 1 of these each turn. So realistically speaking, that would take you at least until turn 10. If you're able to get it, yeah, turn 10. Don't even consider that possibility. But I think the reason this is a D+ is because the card you play on turn 2 is unlikely to advance the gameplay for this, and you're now taking turn 3 off by playing this card. I think you just lose too much tempo by playing this, unfortunately. Electra, Daughter of the Hand, 2 black. This is crazy. 3/3 legendary human ninja villain. Sneak, 1 black. When Electra enters, destroy target creature an opponent controls with power 3 or less. This card might be better than Ravenous Chupacabra. This is an A. Obvious slam dunk. You put this in every black deck. Sometimes you get the sneak out and you get even more value. You know, you return something that has some kind of good enter ability. But this is insane. You play this on turn 4, you automatically 2-for-1 your opponent. And sometimes with the sneak, it's even better. Yeah, super, super strong. Next is Super Scroll. 1 black for a 4/5 legendary scroll shapeshifter villain with flying. 4 activated abilities, 2 in a white, create a 0/4 colorless wall creature token with defender. 3 in green for Super Scroll gets +4/+4 until end of turn. 4 in a red, Super Scroll deals 4 damage to target creature. 5 in a blue, target player draws 4 cards. Build around B+. I think this card, no matter what other color you play with black, you're going to put this in your deck. The reason that it's built around, I've alluded to this with other cards, I think with, well, whatever, but like, the fact that it has 3 black pips means that you likely want to be playing this in a deck that is imbalanced with how many black mana sources you have. So not one where you're playing like 9 swamps and 8 mountains, for example. Something where you're like 11-6 or even 12-5 or something. Something that's very heavy black. Because getting this thing out on turn 4, the red ability is insane. If you're playing black-red, you're just like 0 card cost destroying their 4-drop or their 3-drop or something, and you just do this every single turn. It's unbeatable. If you're playing blue, like, yes, it is a bit unfortunate that on turn 5 you wouldn't be able to use any of these abilities, and then turn 6 you get to draw the 4 cards. But in any case, like, it's so good. It's only a build around B+, build around, because I think playing this in a deck where you have like 9 swamps and 8 whatever other color, that would be a mistake. Thunderbolt's Conspiracy, 3 in a black for an enchantment with flash. Whenever whenever a villain you control dies, return it to the battlefield under its owner's control with a finality counter on it. That creature is a hero in addition to its other types. Yeah, I think you are probably going to be able to get this ability off when you play a full villain deck. That's why, it's a build around. You don't want to be playing this in the deck that has half villains and half heroes. But 3 in a black that basically gives all of your, like, that allows all your creatures to come back once. That's pretty strong, actually. I can imagine flashing this, like, you play a 2-drop, you play a 3-drop, your opponent attacks with a 4-drop, you double block to trade, you flash this in, boom, you get your 2 and 3 back, and now all of a sudden you're already ahead. So I think that will be a fairly normal line, and I think that will make this card worth it. Next is Modok, 3 black for a 2/2 legendary artifact villain, flying and lifelink. Activated ability, pay 3 life, Modok Connives, activate only during your turn, and creatures your opponents control get -1/-1. A-, this card is super good, paying 3 life, and it's not even limited to doing it once each turn. I think most of the time, unless you're really concerned about your opponent having some like specific damage removal, like being able to deal 2 damage or being able to deal 3 damage or something, probably waiting until turn 6, like the next turn, to actually do the conniving. But the -1/-1 is really good for your opponent. I mean, you're going to be destroying a lot of tokens, you're going to be destroying their like low cost annoying future chump blockers or something like that. But it's super flexible, and being able to draw and discard as many times as you want is really strong. Okay, as many times as you want. Yes, it costs 3 life, but I believe you'll be able to find the time to do that. Okay, here is the one. Dr. Doom. 4 black for a 3/3 legendary human scientist villain. When Dr. Doom enters, create 2 3/3 colorless robot villain artifact creature tokens named Doombot. As long as you control an artifact creature or a plan, Dr. Doom has indestructible. At the beginning of your end step, you draw a card and lose 1 life. This is an A. If you cast this card, I think it is nearly impossible to lose the game. If this thing actually enters the battlefield and the spell resolves, you get 3 3/3s for 6 mana. You get Phyrexian Arena that goes on your end step, which is even better than your upkeep, and this thing has indestructible, basically. This is an unbeatable card for 6 mana. I don't even know if I rated any of the cards A+, but I think that this is the best card in the set. Okay, that's the last black card. Quicksilver, Brash Blur. Red for a 1/1 legendary mutant hero. If Quicksilver Brash Blur is in your opening hand, you may begin the game with him on the battlefield with haste and power up 4 in a red, put a +1/+1 counter and double strike counter on Quicksilver. I put this as a C-. 1/1 with haste for 1 mana is not super good. A 5 mana 2/2 with haste and double strike is not very good. I think the opening ability is just not very strong and limited because you're not playing that many 1-drops, and the only way like that becomes really good is on the specific instances where you also had another 1-drop to play, and then you start the board with a 1/1 with haste and, you know, let's say like a 2/1 or something like that. Then you have significant board presence before the game even starts. But this is mostly for constructed. Hawkeye Master Marksman. 1 in a red for a 2/2 legendary human archer hero. First strike and reach. Whenever Hawkeye becomes tapped, you may pay 1 up to 3 times. Whenever you do, choose up to that many.
Target creature can't block this turn. Hawkeye deals 2 damage to target player, and discard a card, then draw a card. This is a B, super flexible. Most of the times you're going to be able to attack on on the following turn, and you can pay up to 3 mana, and then you can rummage, you can get the 2 damage in, because you're going to make it so their 3-drop or whatever, their 2-drop can't block, if they do have a favorable block against you, and then after that land, deal 2 to target player. I think this is really strong. Again, it's only a B because it does not outright win you the game, but it is very, very strong for a 2-drop. Avengers Disassembled. 1 red for a sorcery. Choose one or both. Avengers Disassembled deals 3 damage to each creature or destroy target land. Its controller may search their library for a basic land card, put it onto the battlefield, tap, then shuffle C-. There's a card called Brotherhood's End, which is very similar, and that card is also not very good. The Scarlet Witch, 2 and a red for a 2/3 legendary mutant warlock hero. Instant and sorcery spells you cast with mana value 4 or greater cost X less to cast, where X is Scarlet Witch's power. I rated this as a D. I think it's basically a 3 mana 2/3. I'll put how many instant sorceries actually cost 4 or greater in the set, and the number is pitifully low, where it's just like, what's the point? D. Fin Fang Foom, 2 red for a 3/5 legendary alien dragon villain with flying. Whenever you cast an instant or sorcery spell that targets an artifact or land, copy that spell. You may choose new targets for the copy. Put 2+1/+ encounters on Fin Fang Foom. I put this as a C+. A 4 mana 3/5 with flying is a good card that you're going to put into your deck. The second part is fairly narrow. I think mostly that's only going to happen if you happen to use removal on like an artifact creature. Yeah, that would be pretty good. But ultimately, 4 mana 3/5 with flying, that's a good card you're going to put into your deck. Mjolnir, Hammer of Thor. This is 3 and a red for a legendary equipment. When Mjolnir enters, it deals 4 damage to up to 1 target creature. Double all damage equipped creature would deal. Equip worthy for 1, which means that you can only equip a creature that is a legendary non-villain that's red or white. You can also pay 2 and a red to discard this card to deal 2 damage to each creature. So it has a flexible alternate option too. I put this as a C. I actually don't think equipping a creature to deal double damage is really that good. It'd be better if it gave it double strike. But yeah, the fact that it comes with a 3 mana removal spell, dealing 4 damage to up to 1 target creature, that's good. And then this is a decent equipment. At that point, it'd be on the board. You can equip your creatures for just 1 mana to double the damage they deal. Yeah, and the flexibility too. If you have nothing to kill, whatever, or if your opponent has a really wide board, you can just play 3 and wipe the board, or deal 2 to everything. Next is Thor, God of Thunder. This is 3 red for a 5/5 legendary god warrior hero with flying. When Thor enters, exile target equipment, instant, or sorcery card from your graveyard until the end of your next turn. You may play that card. Whenever you cast a non-creature spell, Thor deals damage equal to that spell's mana value to any target. This is A-. It is super, super good. Even if your opponent removes it, you drew a card by exiling an instant or sorcery. Usually going to be a removal spell from your graveyard that you cast earlier in the game. Obviously, if this isn't removed by your opponent before your next turn, when you get to untap and all that, it's a game-winning card. At that point, let's say you exile a 2, 3, 4 mana, whatever, you deal 2 damage and kill another thing, you start 2 for 1-ing. Yeah, you cannot lose the game at that point. Now the green cards. Shang-Chi, Master of Kung Fu. This is 1 and a green for a 2/2 legendary human warrior hero. You may activate abilities of creatures you control as though those creatures had haste. Tap to add 2 mana of any one color. Spend this mana only to activate abilities of creature sources. Synergy B, a 2 mana dork that taps for 2 mana but can only narrowly be used, is okay. But it just has such a high floor. If you have any power up abilities or whatever other activate abilities, this just becomes extremely strong, and also it gives those things haste. There's other creatures that have tap abilities, activate abilities, and this basically gives them haste for those abilities. So yeah, Synergy B, you always play this when you're playing green. Epic Fight, 2 and a green for a sorcery. Choose one or both. Double target creature's power and toughness until end of turn. Target creature you control fights target creature and opponent controls. Super good fight spell, C+. Yeah, very, very compelling to use this. No notes, I guess. Heroic Feast, 2 and a green for an enchantment. When this enchantment enters, create a food token. Whenever you gain life, choose up to that many target creatures you control, put a +1/+1 counter on each of them. Yeah, build around B. The fact that you get the food and whatever, it's really good putting a +1/+1 counter, basically an instant speed also, on all your creatures. And yeah, you add in the life gain cards, and this can be a very legitimate threat. And again, enchantments are relatively difficult to remove. Moloid Master, 2 and a green for a 1/1 legendary human villain. You may play lands from your graveyard. Whenever a land you control enters, create a 1/1 green minion creature token named Moloid with whenever this token attacks, you may mill a card. I think this is a C- because if you play this on 3 as a 1/1, it literally doesn't do anything. So like sure, on turn 4 you play this with your 3, you play the land, you get a 1/1. Like that's bad. You got a 4 mana for 2 1/1s. I think like this has to create at least 3 1/1s for it to be worth it. And it's just like, yeah, this is bad. I kind of want to downgrade it to basically being unplayable in limited. Next, the Unbeatable Squirrel Girl. 1 green, green, green for a 4/4 legendary squirrel human hero with whenever the Unbeatable Squirrel Girl enters or attacks, create a 1/1 green squirrel creature token. Then you can pay 1 green, 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 create X 1/1 green squirrel creature tokens, where X is the number of squirrels you control. Holy moly, this creature is insane. Again, it's very similar. I'm going to make the same argument for like that Super Scroll card from Black. You have to play a deck where you have enough green sources where you can realistically play this thing on turn 4. But it's just crazy. 4 mana, you get a 4/4, you summon a 1/1. Okay, sure, your opponent might remove it, you're left with a 1/1. But turn 5, I think many times you just declare an attack, you pay 4, you get 2 more 1/1s. Actually, when it attacks, you get a 1/1, so then you'll have another one. You pay 4 mana, you'll get 3 more 1/1s. There's no board clears in this set. This card is insane. If your opponent doesn't remove it, you win the game. Yeah, this card is really, really strong. It's only a B+ because it's difficult to cast. That is the only reason. Next, World War Hulk. 3 green, green for an enchantment saga. Chapter 1. The next red or green creature spell you cast this turn can be cast without paying its mana cost. Chapter 2. Put 3+1/+1 counters on target creature you control. Chapter 3. Choose target creature you control until end of turn, double its power and toughness, and it gains trample. Yeah, I think this is a C-. It's just like, why don't you just play the card that you were going to play? Like, you're not playing that many 6 drops, 7 drops, 8 drops, if there are even any 8 drops, like, in your deck. So it's just like, why don't you just play the card? Because by playing World War Hulk and then using the first ability to, cheat out a 5-drop or a 6-drop, whatever, you're going -1 in cards just to get these things in the future. I actually kind of want to downgrade this to like a D. I think this is unplayably bad in limited. Next is Earth's Mightiest Heroes. This is 4 green, green for a sorcery with Teamwork 5. Reveal the top 8 cards of your library. You may put a creature card from among them onto the battlefield. If the spell was cast using Teamwork, put any number of creature cards from among them onto the battlefield instead. Put the rest into your graveyard. I think this is a C because playing this without the Teamwork is really bad, in my opinion. It's a similar argument to the World War Hulk thing. Like, yeah, except for in this case, sometimes you like completely whiff and you just like don't get anything, right? Or I mean, maybe you get something, you get like a 3-drop or something, or a 4-drop, and then this is like really bad. So I think with like Teamwork 5, if you play a deck that has, let's say, 16 creatures in it, then in the top 8, you're going to get around 3 creatures. 6 mana, tap something that has 5 power more, and you get 3 creatures out of your deck. That's pretty decent. Maybe that's enough to, get you the board and win you the game. But 6 mana, when you're behind, when you're behind and you can't pay the Teamwork cost, I think this card's really bad. Okay, that was the last of the colored spells. Now we're going to the colorless cards. Castle Doom. This is a land. Tap to add colorless. Tap to add 1 mana of any color. Spend this mana only to cast an artifact spell. 3 tap, sacrifice an artifact. Create a 3/3 colorless robot villain artifact creature token named Doombot. Activate only as a sorcery. Build around C. Yeah, if you play this in the artifact deck, sure. But you have to have a lot of artifacts. Like, I would think 6, 7, 8, 9 artifacts, something like that. That's why it's built around. Dark Fortress, there is a cycle of lands that require you to either, whatever, I mean, I'll just read it. Dark Fortress, tap to add colorless, tap, add black or red, activate only if this land entered this turn or if you control a basic land. So there is a cycle that requires you, to have these conditions if this land entered this turn or if you control a basic land. I put this as a C+. I'm basically saying that this is better than the gain lands because you're always going to have a basic land in limited. Gathering Place, this is the one for Selesnya, same thing, C+. Gleaming Bastion, here's the Azorius one. Hidden Lair, here's the Dimir one. Training Compound, this is the Gruul one. So this is only half of the cycle complete. Captain America's Shield, this is 2 for a legendary equipment with Indestructible. Equipped creature gets +0/+8 and has Vigilance. Whenever an equipped creature attacks, tap target creature defending player controls and equip 2. I think this actually might do enough. The Vigilance and the fact that you can tap down their biggest thing, I think it might be enough, especially if you do have some things, for example, that trigger when you attack alone, where this thing does enable you to attack alone because you can be fairly confident your creature is not going to die in combat when it gets +8 in toughness. So build around C+. Super Adaptoid, 2 for a star 2 legendary artifact creature with robot villain. Super Adaptoid's power is equal to the number of legendary creatures you control. Whenever Super Adaptoid enters or attacks, choose another target creature. If that creature has haste and Super Adaptoid doesn't, put a haste counter on Super Adaptoid. Do the same for flying, first strike, double strike, death touch, indestructible, lifelink, menace, reach, trample, and vigilance. I think these people were kind of cowardly for not giving it star, allowing it to grow from like 1/1 to 2/2 to 3/3, 4/4, whatever. This thing is always going to be stuck at 2 toughness, and for that reason, I give it a C-. It ultimately is just too easy to remove, and unfortunately, you cannot give it hexproof via this, triggering ability from the enter or attack. So C-. Iron Man Armor, this is 3 for an artifact equipment. When this equipment enters, attached to a target creature you control, equipped creature gets +2/+1 and has flying, and 2/2, if this equipment isn't a creature, it becomes a 0/0 construct hero artifact creature with flying, and this creature gets +1/+1 for each artifact you control until end of turn. I put a synergy B. I think this card is good enough to put in any deck. 3 to give one of your creatures +2/+1 and have flying, and then in the future you can pay 2 generic mana to give other creatures. Like, that is fine. And then you will be able to, I believe, to use this to attack, even as like a 1/1 flying or something like that. Usually you'll be able to attack, as like a 2/2, 3/3, 4/4, whatever with flying, and that's good. That's really good. So, B. Ultron Artificial Malevolence. This is 3 for a 2/4 legendary robot villain artifact. Whenever another non-token artifact you control enters, you may pay 2. If you do, create a token that's a copy of it. If the token isn't a creature, it becomes a 2/2 robot villain creature in addition to its other types. Build around C+, a 3 mana 2/4 is fairly decent stat line, and I think if you are playing the artifacts, yeah, you would happily pay 2 mana in order to get a 2/2 to copy it. Most of your artifacts might have like an enter ability or some kind of passive ability that like makes them even better. Imagine like that 2 mana 1/3 that surveils for 2 when it enters. That would be great. You play this on 3, on turn 4 you play that, you pay an extra 2, you get a 2/2 that allows you to surveil for 2 more. Really, really strong in the artifact deck. Next is the Vision. That's 4 mana for a 2/5 legendary artifact robot hero with flying and vigilance. Whenever you cast a non-creature spell, choose one that hasn't been chosen this turn. The Vision gains double strike until end of turn, the Vision gains indestructible until end of turn, and draw a card. C+, I think it's decently solid. 4 mana 2/5 flying vigilance is okay. A little bit understated, but you'll be able to draw 1 card off of this, and then it's really good. Draw 1 card every turn, or every other turn even, something like that, and sometimes you are able to get the indestructible to dodge removal by casting the instant on your opponent's turn, for example. Yeah, pretty solid all around. Arc Reactor, 5 artifact with improvise. This artifact enters tapped to add 3 colors. This is a build around F. Gilded Lotus is bad. 5 mana tapped to add 3 mana of any color, and it doesn't enter tapped. Gilded Lotus is bad and limited. This card is atrocious. Why would you ever play this card? F. Cosmic Cube. 5 for an artifact with Ward 2. Whenever you attack, look at the top 6 cards of your library. You may cast a spell from among them with mana value less than or equal to the greatest power among attacking creatures you control without paying its mana cost. Put the rest on the bottom of your library in a random order. So when I looked at this card, there was a card, kind of somewhat similar in the past, the Planetarium of Wan Shitong. I pondered for a bit about which of the 2 cards was better, and ultimately I decided that the Planetarium was better. Cosmic Cube, I think, is still a B-. I think you play this in your deck, basically, no matter what. The fact that it's War 2 is good, the fact that artifacts are fairly difficult to remove, and a lot of the, just that artifacts are difficult to remove, is good. And I think many times, you play this on 5, you'll be able to cheat out like a 3 or 4 drop from this, and then you like drew and played a 3 or 4 drop when you attack with your 4 drop after playing the Cosmic Cube, and I think that's really quite strong. And then the 10 Rings. This is 8 for a legendary artifact. Your maximum hand size is 10 at the beginning of your end step. If you have fewer than 10 cards in hand, draw cards equal to the difference. This is an F. You cannot on turn 8, or not even turn 8, when you have 8 mana, probably on like turn 10 or something, play this and then basically do nothing. This is unplayably bad. In 90+% of games, this card literally doesn't do anything because you will not get to 8 mana. So bad, F. Okay, finally the last, the closing thoughts I have. So from what you saw, the black just has very, very high quality rares and mythics that can fit into any deck. They require really little like build around or anything like that. Like Dr. Doom, yes, I said Super Score or whatever was a build around card, but it's just so strong. And then that other one that's similar to Ravenous Chupacabra with the sneak, so good. Number 2, there's very little mana fixing. There's only 1 3 mana artifact that is like a manalith, that vehicle, and then 1 3 mana ramp spell, which is not very good, like that sorcery speed version of Precious Wander. So in that case, you should stick to a 2-color deck in nearly all cases. I'm doubtful that Izzet or Orzhov will be able to complete their game plans for blue-red artifacts. I think it just lacks the critical master support, and there's very few artifact tokens. Ones that would, trigger more enter artifact abilities, or ones where, the ability scales with the number of artifacts you control. I just don't think this is the type of set where there's that many artifacts. And then for Orzhov, I don't believe in this attack alone because it seems counterproductive. Like, basically putting all your eggs in one basket. Sure, you attack with your biggest thing. You have all these triggers that stack onto it. Great, okay. I don't think there's one that gives lifelink, which would be really what might put that over the top. But it's just like your opponent's going to take it. Your biggest thing is now tapped, and then they just wail on you because you have all these other things that you don't really want to block with, because that would ruin your attack alone. So I don't think that white-black. I think the other variations of black decks are going to be a lot stronger. And then finally, there's very little instant speed removal, which means you need to be drafting this at a premium. You need to be putting seemingly bad instant speed removal into your deck, and red removal seems especially worse than in the typical sets. But yeah, that's my review of the limited environment for Marvel superheroes. I hope you enjoyed the video, and I'll see you in the next set.